button.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait about that and the stream. I don't need. I don't need to make
Don't
anybody.
waste it.
Yeah, I don't need to waste it, and I don't need to make anybody any big fans angry. Yeah,
Are
having
there a lot of
dedicated.
big fans of that movie?
I don't know. I feel like it's got. I feel like it does have a particular
We're talking
hold.
about Point Break, not
Yeah,
today, not on the
not
stream,
on the
but
stream.
Hugh.
But I rewatched Point Break last night. I have some capital O opinion to say. But no, I do think there is. I do think it has. I'm not sure if it's like, people are giant fans, of Point Break, but people talk about the first Fast and Furious being a ripoff of Point Break. It's like it is referred to in Hot Fuzz as, some kind of action movie staple. Like something that is a big, like a bit. I think it has a bit more of a cultural hold than you know give it credit for, maybe, if you're just sort of casually approaching it. But boy, I wow.
People are
Like,
talking. Is there a remake?
yeah, there was
Is
a
there a
remake in 2015. There was a remake. Nobody
oh,
who you've ever heard of was in the remake.
okay. Noted. It has a 12 on Rotten Tomatoes. That's pretty funny. But
Yeah,
anyway,
see,
we're not
look
talking
at that.
about
So,
Point
yeah, we're
Break.
not talking about Point Break today. We're like, look at that though. People already. Yeah, today we are not going talking about that. Hold on.
That is
Yeah,
something we are going to talk about
in the
in the
future,
future because Hugh is demanding that I watch it.
I
So
am.
stay tuned for the Point Break stream. That'll be in the future. But no, today we're talking about For a Few Dollars More, the sequel to A Fistful of Dollars that we talked about last weekend. If you haven't seen that stream, go check it out. It was a fun one because Hugh and I both really, really enjoyed A Fistful of
Fistful of Dollars.
Dollars. It was a first time watch for both of us, and we were like, man, worth the hype. Absolutely. Great film. Highly recommend A
Absolutely
Fistful of Dollars.
fantastic.
And so then we decided, well, we might as well review the whole trilogy, right? The whole Dollars trilogy. And so here we are. Hope you're all having a fine Sunday as I think we're going to have perhaps some controversial opinions about this movie. Who knows? We'll have some capital O opinions. It'll be thematic. We'll be making good on the name of our channel today, I think.
Yes, I think we will.
Well, first of all, I think it's worth mentioning that a For a Few Dollars More is one of the strangest sequels ever. I can't really think of much of anything like it in terms of
Yeah, that is.
to the degree that it is a sequel at all.
Yeah,
Question
it
mark?
is very
It's
strange.
unusual.
Yeah, this is a very strange sequel, and I did call you at some point earlier this week to just kind of get my thoughts out about this, because it's been kind of, stuck in the back of my mind since I watched it. I think going into this movie with the idea that it is a sequel to A Fistful of Dollars actually does this a bit of a service. Um
I agree with you. I think
because
it is best enjoyed as its own
yeah,
standalone thing with a lot of the same elements because man, what happened to my boy?
yeah, it is
That's
it is a very strange sequel in heavy air quotes, because the character that Clint Eastwood is playing is kind of the same. He's wearing the same costume and the
yeah,
same poncho,
yeah.
but boy, is he behaving quite differently in a lot of
Yeah, he sure
respects.
is.
There's a little bit of well, not even a little bit. There's a pretty big disconnect between what happens with his character in the first one and who is at all in this one. Um, I found,
Except for having a similar affect in terms of like how he carries himself, because
yeah,
it's Clint Eastwood, and the fact that he has the exact same outfit, he's not the same person. And so once you get over that hurdle, once you get over the oh, this isn't really connected to
Yeah.
the first movie, even though everything about it is trying to tell
It's
you that you
screaming
should.
at you that actually it is like the sequel to it. I mean, from the title to the poncho to like, some of the same character actors all wearing the same costumes but not being the same people. So
Yeah,
it is
it's
one where I
odd.
like in knowing that this is considered like kind of a sequel did mess with me a little bit when I was watching it, and so on a second watch, going through it more as its own separate thing, I enjoyed it far more than I did the first time around. Um, but like it just doesn't. I don't know. It didn't have the same charm for as the first one did. I think it lost a little thing in between, and it did not resonate. Um, and
Yeah,
it, yeah,
I had heard varying things about the degree to which this is even a sequel and the degree to which this whole trilogy is even really a trilogy. And it's in such a strange middle ground, right? This is like, I guess the closest thing I can think of are like the Mad Max movies, where like technically
yeah.
Fury Road and the first Mad Max are in the same franchise, technically.
technically,
Um,
technically they are. But if you just showed somebody, you're like, oh yeah, no, Mad Max Fury Road. It's like a sequel to Mad Max. The person who had only seen Mad Max 1 and then jumped straight to Fury Road, I think would be very confused. Um,
yes. Yeah. And so, I think the title is certainly trying to tell you that this is a sequel. Him wearing the same outfit is trying to tell you that this is a sequel, but he's not the same guy. So it's a weird splitting of the baby in that regard. But once I got over the fact that this is not the character that I really, really liked from the first movie, and that he's like a completely new guy with who's like wearing the skin suit of the first guy I liked a lot, it was easier to get into it. But I think overall, yeah, I didn't like this movie as much as the first one. I felt like this was. There's a lot of cool stuff in this movie. There's a lot of great music. There's a lot of great cinematography and editing, and there's some cool action scenes. There's a few too many of the, oh yeah, well I can shoot a pistol even better than you. So there's it's a bit, it's longer than the first movie, and I don't think it benefits from that personally. But there's a lot to like about it, but I just feel like compared to the first movie, the story here just has so much less meat to it, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, and
Like I'm sort of interested in watching these two bounty hunters sort of compete, but also work together to stop this bad guy. But like, I don't know, it doesn't have any of the depth that the first one did, as far as I'm concerned. I think the moral angle being lost is a big it's a big loss to the movie, I think. There's a lot to like about it, like I said, but it just didn't hook me as much as the first one did. I think it feels like a little, I don't know, like there's a lot of repetition, there's a lot of surface level stuff that worked about the first movie, but I feel like the real heart of the first movie is not in this, and there isn't something that's really replaced it, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah. So to really quickly respond to Topaz Dude, my understanding in Italy, the title wasn't even for a few dollars more. That was an American thing. I If you do have a better source than Wikipedia on that one, I'd love to know about it. But what the Wikipedia article says the title in Italian is, and I'm going to butcher this language here, but it is per qualche dollaro in più, which correctly translated is for a few dollars more. So they did keep if what I'm seeing there is correct, it does look like they did keep that title, and that's the other thing about it is the title is a direct like reference to the first one, right? A
I mean, it's
fistful of
it's it's
dollars and then a few
almost
dollars more.
identical to calling it a fistful of dollars too.
Yeah,
It's the same thing.
yeah. It so yeah. And somebody earlier had said something about is this the first instance of calling something a sequel to get it funding? Maybe. That
It
might
doesn't
be.
appear
It
that
doesn't
way. I
really
mean,
seem
I
that way. I don't
haven't
know if
done the
he
deep
intended
dive,
for it to
but
really be like, as people keep saying in the chat too, and I think this is probably the better way to look at the three of them, is that it's more of an anthology series than it is a direct follow, yeah,
yes.
follow up.
I think
Um,
that's the best way to enjoy it for
yeah,
sure. Whether that was like really the intention is a little murkier because at least according to, a cursory glance into this, for a few dollars more, like came after the success of the first one and they wanted to make a sequel. And it's clear that they were trying to make a sequel in some aspects of the movie.
yeah. I
But
mean, yeah. So there are little things that they take advantage of, as if this were a sequel, right? Like a musical sting to introduce Clint Eastwood's character, where we
like,
we
remember
like,
him?
you remember? Hey,
Like,
look, it's the
I do
poncho.
remember him.
You remember the poncho? Like he's wearing the same poncho, guys. He's got the same outfit, the iconic outfit, and I do remember in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, like through the movie, he ends up finding the iconic poncho by the end of the film, and that's sort of like why people, apart from the timeline, consider that to be because anyway, they consider that to be a prequel because it shows you how he ends up getting his, iconic costume, right? Which they've carried the iconic costume through all three, but they're not really playing the guy, right? Like, and
No.
there are also comments in the chat right now that are saying things about how, you got to view him in reverse order because it's his path to becoming the badass that he is in Fistful of Dollars. We will talk about that
What?
idea.
I had not heard of that as
I
a
had not
theory.
heard about that as a theory until just now either. We will talk about that because I do not know if I buy it. I don't know if I think that the movie is really supporting that idea by the end of this, because I would not say that by the end of this our guy has become the guy from the
No,
first
he's
movie.
he's just a different guy, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, it is fine.
That's fine. We
Like,
can assess that on its own terms.
yes. Now, I will say that
But
I did enjoy this movie, and like I said, I enjoyed it a lot more the second time around after I had kind of accepted the fact that this was not actually a sequel and it was just a sort of standalone story with similar elements. I did enjoy that a lot more because of it.
I only
Now,
saw it the once, so
yeah,
I haven't had that
I
experience.
think
I
on
just
the
had
second watch, knowing that, and I did try to prime you for this because I feel like it makes the movie more enjoyable if you're not
true, but
waiting
I
for.
think
Yeah,
even once you get past the fact that it's not the same guy and that it's not a sequel, and you try to assess it on its own terms, I just
it's
feel
not
like
quite as
there's
strong.
not as
Yeah,
much depth there to the story.
I
Like,
s-
for example, we won't spoil it just yet because we are going to spoil this movie, but we'll consider this spoiler-free talk at the moment. There is a reveal that happens at the very end of this movie that when it happened, I was like, "Oh, well, that's interesting. Did that really like were we setting that up? Did that really affect the story at all, or is that just kind of another like angle that we just drop on you at the last minute to make it feel like this was more meaningful than you thought? And I'm like, I don't think it was more meaningful. I think we there's a reveal that happens at the very end that could have factored into the story in a much more interesting way instead of just being like another layer they drop on the very end. I know it sounds weird if you don't know what I'm talking about, but I feel like this movie was just kind of lacking in the depth of the first movie in terms of the motivation and the real heart of it. Like for example, there's the second act low point in this movie, very similar to the second act low point in the first movie, but less meaningful in every way. You know what I mean? Like they get captured and they're getting the shit kicked out of them, and then people are cackling, and it's like, yeah, I remember that from the first one. It was better there. It was more meaningful then.
yeah.
Um, I
So
feel like a lot of the stuff we talked about, as far as like a fistful of dollars having a sort of like mythological sort of structure to it, and or like core of the story, that seems to be gone, you know? And it's like, I feel like there's a lot of interesting symbolic sort of things happening in that first one that I just don't really see here. Maybe as we go through it, you'll point out some things and I'll be like, okay, maybe. But yeah, it just felt a whole lot more surface level. Not in a terrible way. It's certainly better than a lot of movies being made today. I did enjoy a lot about it. I like the music, I like the cinematography, I like the performances. There's some fun gags, there's some
Yeah,
cool kills. There's a lot to like about it. But yeah,
not hitting for us as much as the first one did. We already have a super
we do
chat.
have a super chat. Yeah, from
Jeremy
Jeremy.
Soden.
Yeah, you got
Thank you very
it.
much. Says I've loved all three films since my distant youth, but I've never sat down to watch them closely, let alone as a project for the. Yeah, I think and that ties in with something that Pie Guy had asked out of interest. How much of a gap did we have between Fistful and this? Did you just follow straight up? I did. It was basically the next day. I rushed down to rent this movie on Amazon. So it was very close back to back because I really loved Fistful of Dollars, so I wanted more of it, and the second one. I think that also did lead to a little bit of a little bit of a letdown for me because it is very different. Despite
Burgess
all of the
Rex
trapping.
says, I just can't credit Fistful when it copies Yojimbo so blatantly. It's like, yeah, but that's what's really good about
Yeah,
it. Like, I mean, you don't have to credit them for coming up with the idea, but that does
it
make
does work.
everything about
Yeah.
it, it does work really, really well. And A Fistful of Dollars is just, I just think it's a much better story. It's much more compelling. There's a lot more to really dig into about it. But we're gonna dig into what's here.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
gonna maybe I'll change my mind at the end. Maybe I'll appreciate it more. But after our first watch, I was like, yeah, I don't know. There's just everything about it felt like it had been a step down. For example, there's
Oh
excellent
yeah.
music, and for a few dollars more. But the way it's used isn't as good as far as I'm concerned. There's a lot of repetition of musical ideas. It's like, yep, no, I get it. I get it. You've played it 18 times in this movie. Um, I liked it the first few times, but I'm getting kind of sick of it now. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but
Um, I'd also like to point the thing also pointed out that the Cornetto trilogy by Edgar Wright was influenced by this pretty heavily, and that's another thing that we talked about before when I was trying to kind of gather my thoughts on how strange of a trilogy this one is comparatively even to that. So with the Cornetto trilogy, if you're not familiar with it, that would be Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and End, which are all different genres of movies starring the same core cast, right? Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, and then others are around them. First one, Shaun of the Dead, very popular zombie movie, kind of a parody with heart of Dawn of the Dead. Right, it's called Shaun
mhm.
of the Dead. Hot Fuzz, my personal favorite of the three. Uh,
It's the
a
best of the 3,
a
yeah, but
parody
it's close.
of a parody of a parody and an homage to action movies like Point Break and Bad Boys 2 and all of those kinds of classic 90s
Sure.
action cinemas that meets and then exceeds them as far as I'm concerned in execution and heart. It's an action comedy. It's a lot of fun. Um, and then World's End, which is essentially a sci-fi alien horror movie. And I find that one, or I found that one the last time I watched it to be the weakest of the three, but I haven't seen it in time,
Yeah, it's the
so
weakest of the 3, but it's still good.
still pretty good. Yeah,
It's
I
yeah.
did enjoy it, but it was no Hot Fuzz, and I watched it very soon after seeing Hot Fuzz. Maybe had a little bit similar situation. Dollars more. Now, the main difference that I would like to point out between the Cornetto trilogy and this is that those three, and apart from the fact that they are all separate genres, it would almost be as if instead of doing, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and then World's End, you did Shaun of the Dead and then a new movie called Hot Fuzz, where Simon Pegg is playing Shaun in the same outfit that Shaun was wearing through Shaun of the Dead, but is acting very differently from Shaun. Well, maybe not very differently. He's still got sort of the same action and attitude, and kind of goofy, behavior, but he's not referencing or referring to anything that happened in the last movie. And we've called it Shaun of the Dead 2, but it's still the same plot as Hot Fuzz. It would be a little bit more like that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's very odd. It's
it's
very unusual.
an odd way to go about making like a trilogy, and if you weren't aiming for, sequel or, that, then it makes way more sense, like as a series of anthologies. But it is a bit confusing because they all are the same genre and it's the same costume, and he's kind of the same, but not really. So that's really where I feel like it differs, and it almost like the Kurt Russell, John Carpenter movies. If that he was dressed like Snake Plissken the whole time, and they were
Yeah,
reusing
yeah.
the costumes, that's sort of what it would be like. So I'm ready to jump in and talk about it.
Sure.
Because yeah,
One
feel
thing
like
I wanted to acknowledge before we jump in and sort of talk about the specifics here is someone, The Thing, said the whole trilogy is an ironic deconstruction of the Western and its morality, so they become more and more cynical about it. In the third one, Eastwood is called the good, while he changes very minimally. Um, Maybe that's true of 2 and 3, but I don't think you can say that about 1. I really don't. I don't think there's anything really ironic or deconstructive about A Fistful of Dollars. And perhaps, ironically, that's what I like about it so much. Um, Maybe you could say that about the later movies, but I really don't think you can say that about the first one at all.
yeah. I do. Yes. So let's get in and talk about it. I'd like to set it up pretty well.
Sure.
All right. So, where the last one left off, right, is our Yojimbo cowboy basically has shown up and saved a small town. One of the things that we really loved about him doing that, right, is because he initially you think he's in it for the money, and he does kind of play up that angle at first, but then as the plot progresses, it becomes quite obvious that that is not why he is involving himself in the affairs of this small town on the US-Mexican border. He is doing it because he has shown up, found some bad shit going down, and decided that he cannot abide it. And so, as a sort of neutral arbiter of justice, he takes on to solve the town's problems, and he rides off into the sunset after he has, ended the reign of terror by the Rojas, or the Rojos gang. In so where this movie begins is a very long, wide shot of a man you cannot see riding on a horse in open country, and then he's shot off his horse. We get a really fun opening credit sequence where they have a lot of they play around with the credits and the music a lot. I don't love the opening credit sequence as much as I loved the title sequence in Fistful of
Same.
Dollars.
Same.
But I
think
do
it's
think it is fun the way that they like jump the text around the screen just to do it.
with the gunshots.
With the
Yeah.
gunshots. There's one point like later on where it just sort of for some reason starts flashing up to a bunch of different points on the screen just because they can. And you know what? Good for you, man. Like that's fun. That's good. And the title, so after the title sequence and the credits have run and we've seen that happen, a text card pops up on the screen, and what it says is, when in a place where I think, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have it in front of me, but it is in a place where life had no worth, death sometimes had its price. That is why the bounty killers came.
Before we continue, I've seen a couple comments in chat that your mic keeps cutting out intermittently.
Oh,
You,
the
you know what
levels look
that's about?
the levels look okay on my end. Maybe I can. Is it still?
I don't know.
Yeah,
But,
keep
just
me.
something to
I'll
an eye
keep
on.
my eye on the levels. Chat. Just let me know if it's still doing that.
Cutting out.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, so yes, so now we have a story about bounty hunters. So now the guy from the first movie is a bounty hunter instead, which isn't when you're watching this still expecting it to be a similar guy, you're like, okay, I guess he could be a bounty hunter, you know?
Yeah.
And but see, part of what's confusing about it is there are a couple moments early on in this movie where Clint Eastwood's character is like, oh, that does feel like the same guy. When he goes in, I'm jumping a little bit ahead, but when he goes into the sheriff to sort of claim the bounty, and he kind of ribs the sheriff, like, aren't you supposed to be honest and true and everything like that? Isn't that what a sheriff's supposed to be? And he goes, yeah, and he grabs the sheriff's star off of him, and he walks outside. He sees two guys. He says, you need a new sheriff, and then walks away. I'm like, that feels like my guy from the
Yeah.
first movie.
Yeah.
But then, but very little after that does, fortunately. Anyway,
Yes. Yeah, so that's the immediate setup, right? Is that now we are following some bounty hunters in the Old West. Now, one of the people in the chat, one of our fine chatters, has commented that the opening sequence of the long shot of the guy getting shot off the horse is intended to make you think that it could be Clint's character from the first movie or somebody else, right? Basically, if essentially, is that what it's trying to do? Is like, do we think that that's what it's trying to do? Is set up the fact that, like, you forget what you knew from the first one? Because
I mean, I didn't get any of
I
that.
did not, I did not pick up on that,
It
especially.
seemed rather abstract.
Yeah,
Just kind of like from a distance, just kind of seeing this sort of, this violent scene play out from a distance, and sort of like you don't really have any context, so it's just kind of abstracted in a way, kind of sets the tone without really telling you anything story-wise. That's sort of all I got from it, but I didn't get any like, oh, forget what you knew about the last one, because you can't really see anything about who these characters are, so you have no reason, I think, to assume anything about them, really.
yeah,
I don't know. That's
yeah.
how it
That so
occurred to me.
yeah, that didn't quite, and I think that one of the problems that I have with doing that is that if you're going to, signal to me at the beginning of the movie that I should forget what I know about what happened in the first one, then I'm still gonna get some whiplash when you give me the sort of, hey, here he is, musical sting, when we see him walk into town in the same costume that he was in the last movie. So it feels like you're kind of trying to split the baby here instead. Like, you could have given him a different color poncho if you were gonna do that. Like, even just a little
Yeah,
something might have
take a note
helped
from
out.
like cinematic masterpiece Sinners and just give him a
Give
different
him a
colored
different
outfit.
color
That's
hat.
how you know he's
That's how you know they look exactly the same, but they're different.
yeah. That's how you know they're a different character. They wear different colors. Um. Anyway, but then we're introduced to a train rolling into town, and we're introduced to Lee Van Cleef, who is excellent in this movie. I wish, I wish there was a bit more for him to do because he is such a great actor. But that'll be more of my criticism later. I do like his performance a lot
Yes,
in
I
this.
do like Lee Van Cleef's character. I think he is great in this movie. And he kind of fulfills, especially on the second watch, he fulfills what it was that I was looking for from Clint's character in this one.
Yeah, yeah, to a degree, yeah.
Yeah, he has more of the role to play. And this is where some of the Mad Max comparisons started, like, I started to make those, connections in my head, because he's the one who's more of the like mysterious hero who is doing it for a reason other than he's letting on, right?
Yes.
That's what I and that he opens reading the Bible on a train, right? So we've already got that connection. He's coming into town, you know from the original, from the holy and the place of divinity, right? That's more interesting, and I did, especially on the second watch, I really enjoyed him more than I enjoyed the man with no name in this
Yeah,
one.
I totally agree. He's much more interesting. I wish he was even more interesting, but we'll get back to that. Topaz Dude makes a good point. I feel this is apt. He says Lee Van Cleef and Clint are basically just aura farming for the first act of the
Yes,
movie.
yes.
And yes,
It is
I
pretty
think
sick.
it's fun and it's funny, but there is a lot of like, nah, I'm cooler. Like, oh yeah, you think you're cool? Check it out. I'm even cooler. Like that's a lot of the runtime of this movie in a way
They
that I
do that
don't
a lot. Yes.
a lot. Like that scene where they're shooting the hats.
Oh, that goes on for so
Fucking
long,
hell,
dude. That's
man.
a little, yeah, that could
Oh,
be
it's
that could be shorter.
egregious. But it's and it's like one of like maybe 3 or 4 sequences, unironically, in the movie where it's like, "Oh, yeah? Am I the faster shot? Oh, are you the better shot? Who's the better shot?" There's a lot of dick measuring in this movie.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. So when he shows up and basically like, he does his first Lee Van Cleef's character, whose name is like Mortimer. Is that his last name? The Colonel. We'll call him the Colonel. When he shows up and does his first bounty kill, of the guy who's holed up in the bordello, like that is so cool. Like that's that, and I'm like, okay, like, especially on the second go through, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I want from this movie. I want him to be like this. I can't wait to see how him and my guy from the first one are going to team up or interact. I wonder what this, and I did also have in my head, because we did watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly a few years ago. So I did have in my head, I was like, feel like this guy is the bad guy from Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Like he's the bad from Good, the Bad, and the
Yes.
Ugly. It looks he's dressed very similarly. He looks the same. It is him, but he plays a different character again when we get to Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Um, so that
Yeah,
also
but
I was like,
his
is he? Yeah,
introductory scenes were especially strong,
yeah.
I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, are we exploring like, is he the evil version, the evil foil to our hero from the first movie?
That's one, like, path they could have gone down. Another path they could have gone down where is that he's the self-interested bounty hunter, and then he forms a sort of like, a kind of like a loose alliance with Clint Eastwood, who, assuming he's going to be the same guy from the first movie, isn't the self-interested, only out for himself, greedy bounty hunter guy. He's going after the villain of this movie, more for moral reasons or something like that. And that can be an interesting dynamic if they're like on the same side but not for the same reasons. There's a lot you could
Yeah.
play around with there.
And they kind
Like
of
you said,
do that. They do
a
kind
little
of do
bit.
that, except that it's the reverse of what you
Yeah,
might expect from a direct sequel. Like, it
and
is.
it's only kind of at the very end. Does that
Yeah,
really factor into it? Um, we'll get onto it.
yeah.
Anyway,
Um,
but his introduction scene is
yeah. His
excellent. I really
introduction scene
like
is great. I love
he
that.
slides the
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 wanted
wanted poster
poster
under
under
the
the door.
door. He knocks on the door, and then the shots ring out, and then he like pushes his way in. He sees the guy fleeing, and then as he's leaving, he makes a little like "pardon me, ma'am" comment to the lady in the bathtub. It's fun. It's great.
Yeah.
This is great stuff.
He has
Off to
that
a good start.
badass shootout out in the, so like he kills as the guys are trying to run away, he kills his horse, and then he just stands there while the dude walks back at him with a pistol trying to hit him, and he's too far away to get a good clean shot, and he's also just too bad of a shot to do it, but he just stands there and calmly pieces together his little contraption to turn his 45 into a rifle, give it a rifle stock on the end. I mean, that is so fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
It's so, like you said, aura
Quick,
farming.
yeah, a quick thing to Kevo, who says, "Remember, boys, it's not a direct sequel." Yes, we know. We've said that many times. The point is, everything about the movie is like telling you on the surface that it is a sequel, and so it's reasonable to interact with the movie the first time you watch it as if it is, right? So when we're talking about how we're watching the first part of the movie and the expectations we have going into it and where it could have gone and what ideas it could have played with, that's why it's relevant. We are aware that it is not a direct sequel,
Yes.
but it will keep coming up in the conversation because that's the nature of the film. So
Yeah.
you don't have to keep reminding me.
Yeah, we do know. And like I said, I enjoyed it a lot more having realized that it was not a direct sequel. You know, but on the first watch through, it did, like again, it did confuse me a little bit as to, and
Well, it creates certain
yeah,
expectations of things that they could have done with, and so
yeah,
like when we're talking about angles that they could have taken the movie, because it gets off to a perfectly fine, good start for
yes.
both avenues, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so well, and then yeah, so let's talk about Clint's character's introduction in this one, right? Like, after Lee Van Cleef has turned in his bounty and collected the reward, he asks about another bounty that's hung up on the wall, and the bounty dealer, I guess, is basically so the guy, the job board from Borderlands guy basically says, "Oh yeah, well somebody else was in here asking about him. He's he's out in this town." And he's like, "Oh really? Who?" And he says his name was Manco, which is I guess basically the Italian for like man, man with no name essentially. Said his name
Hmm.
was Guy, the guy. Um, and so
It's
then
him.
it's him. He is him. And so then we get a cut with a great musical sting straight to Clint's character walking in to a rainy town, leading his horse in with the iconic poncho as he walks up to a saloon, and he does his aura farming, introduction where he walks up
Yeah.
to a guy and plays a little 5 card draw, without having placed a bet.
Or
And
sat down at the
or
table. He
sat
just
down at
sort
the
of
table. He just grabs the deck from him and starts dealing out the cards. And the guy sitting gets 3 kings, but then and Clint starts off his hand with 2 aces, and then they do their trade-ins. And what didn't you know? Clint gets 3 aces and manages to beat the kings. And so the guy says, "Well, I didn't hear what the bet was," and he says, "Your life." And so then they fight.
which
There's a big
excellent line.
yeah.
Very fun, very funny. Like a lot of that stuff is definitely still here and that I like so much. Like, I mean, first of all, you know me, I love a good snap zoom. There's a lot of like really fun, stylish stuff in this movie. There's a lot of like really cool moments where it's like that's a really cold line to like walk up. Like everything about that is really cool. The cool factor is very much still here. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There might even be aspects of this movie that are cooler than the first one. If that's all you care about, this one might have even more of that.
Yeah, this is a very cool plot, like
Yeah.
and intricately, sort of woven together. There's a bank heist, there's, shootouts, there's, intrigue.
Dick
Yeah,
measuring, there's
yeah,
all of
dick
it.
measuring, they got all of it. Yeah, so they have a little fight in the bar. The person who he intimidated into giving him, the information of where the bounty was runs out to a barber shop. And I loved this little detail where he like basically goes to the one of the guys sitting at the barber shop who stops the barber in the middle of a shave. So he walks into the saloon with half his face shaved to, basically try to defend the guy that Clint is after, which is like it's funny. It's just so funny. We get a nice medium close up of him with half a beard, which is just cool. It's just a fun thing that you wouldn't maybe expect from somebody who's making this kind of movie. Um,
Yeah.
lot
Just
and
really quick because it just showed up in the trailer on screen, and it's just one of my favorite like unbelievably funny decisions. Like when we first show Indio and then he's like cackling
yeah,
evilly, and then we transition to the wanted poster where he's laughing on the wanted poster.
yeah.
Like what an amazing decision that was,
It's
to
so
make
fun. Yeah, it's
it's
such a
so fun.
goofy, fun thing to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Tie
and
it
the movie
together
still
visually.
has that in spades, which
Yeah.
is, worth emphasizing.
Well, yeah, and so after Clint has, collected his bounty and told the sheriff off for being a useless piece of shit. Um, that's when we get our introduction to our third character, our third main character, Indio, the villain of the film, El
Who,
Indio.
as many people have pointed out already, kind of gets like a lot more screen time and character development even than Clint Eastwood does in this film,
Yeah, very much
for
so,
better and for
actually.
worse.
Yeah. And so another thing on the first watch that tripped me up here, and I immediately had to Google some shit for this because, like, again, I was under the impression that this was a direct sequel. So when the large man with the curly hair and the big black mariachi hat showed up, um, playing a very similar character to the one he plays in Fistful of Dollars, I was like, is this the Rojo's
Yeah,
gang?
it's the same
Is this
goon.
the same? That's the same guy. And then they break into the jail, and I'm like, that's Ramon. That's the same guy. I swear to God, he killed him in the first one. That's like it's a what is happening here? Um, immediately jumped to Google and found out that he is playing a different character like they all are, right? So I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
I see.
okay, yeah, I gotcha, cool, all
And
right.
I'm glad they brought back
I
Ramon, or the
am
actor
as well
playing
because I
Ramon,
think he's
because
great.
he's excellent.
Yeah, I do very much enjoy his performance in this one. I think he gets to have maybe a little more fun with this than he did with his character in the first one, because he's
Sure.
really kind of
He has more to do
unhinged. He's
in
yeah,
this.
he's
Yeah.
more has more to do. He's more complex. He's more unhinged, and I can definitely see why people would prefer this character to the villain of Ramon. As Ramon is pretty straightforward, you know.
Oh yeah.
Indio's a little bit.
He's like, yeah, Ramon is like, clever and competent, but he's not as complex. He's just a really bad dude.
Yeah. Yeah, this dude is a little bit more. I mean, we'll see several scenes of him racked with, guilt over something that he has done, in the
Hmm.
past, which will tie him into the story with Lee and Cleef. We'll see him sort of. He has a very stone cold So after he escapes, right? He and his goons go to confront the man who captured him, and he has this kind of stone cold, badass moment where he opens a pocket watch that plays a little jingle, um, and basically says like when you hear the music finish, then you draw, and that's if you can kill me, fair and square, then good for you, right? But he's gonna basically prove that he can outshoot you by doing this, and so he does that, and it's pretty intimidating, pretty scary. But he has a little bit of a breakdown after this happens because he's kind of he's kind of racked with his own guilt over what got him his bounty in the first place. He has to basically collapse into a chair and relax, like basically dose himself with a smoke, to get
Yeah.
through it, which makes him a little bit more like it gives him a little bit more intrigue, a little more complexity, and I do like that a lot. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, there's sort of to me, it seemed like there's kind of an implication, like he did like one horrible thing, and then as a result, everything has sort of spiraled out until now he's like a really, really bad dude, much like Ramon. But it all kind of like comes from this terrible thing he did. And like ever since having that bounty, like now he's a criminal, and like he just like keeps doing more and more terrible things to like avoid justice for that like one crime. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
that's sort of how I took it, like the implication of that, which is interesting. I think that is interesting a lot. And I like the pocket watch that has like a music box in it essentially and plays a little jingle. Um I liked it the first like 5 or 6 times they did it in the movie. It got a little tedious at the end for me, but
yes, yeah. The thing says he doesn't think it's guilt. He thinks he's angry because he faced an ultimate rejection. What do we make of that? Because I do get some measure of regret from him, honestly, in this performance. I feel like do you feel the same? You think it's more of anger?
I could see it being both. I don't really. It's not. They don't put too fine a point on it. I think it could go kind of either way, but based on his, because when we see him in this movie, in like the main timeline of the film, not the flashbacks, he is like a horrendous, like
Yes, he is
evil
a
guy.
horrendous evil murderer. Yeah.
Yes, and he kind of has no qualms about it, but he does have qualms about this, which makes me think it was either the first like horrible thing he did, and that has sort of like led to a sort of spiraling out, like I said, into like making him who he is now, or if you take your interpretation that it's more of like a that he felt rejected by that. Um, well, Hugh, what specifically happens in the flashback?
Well, okay, so yeah, well, in the flashback, he murders a young man and then rapes his wife. Right, that's the
Hmm.
yeah, this beautiful young woman that he was watching through the window. Right, and in the act, she steals his gun and kills herself with it, which he Yeah, there's a lot of depth to what you could read into what he's doing here, right? But I get the feeling that he's like he's smart enough to kind of realize that he doesn't understand why someone would do that, right? Like that's sort of
Yeah.
what I get out of this. And that this in particular is a memory. Maybe, I like the idea that this is maybe the first the first breaking of his, breaking bad of his career, right? This is the first,
Yeah,
big
that's
thing
one
that he
way.
did. I like that interpretation. It could go the either way, that it's also, he's been doing this forever, but this one time she killed herself rather than, like live on with it, and that's something that he doesn't understand, right? And that
Yeah.
he keeps returning to because he's fascinated by the idea of it, right? That
Yeah.
something that he doesn't quite grasp. So he's still continuing down this like evil pathway and escalating his, escapades, but he's racked with something, when and I think the main reason why I thought it was, some kind of guilt was that he shoots the guy who caught him and immediately breaks down, right? Like
Yeah.
it's not something like he, in the rush of the moment, he immediately starts shaking and, begging for a cigarette, and he has to, smoke deeply and like sink into the chair to sort of calm himself. And he's vulnerable in that moment, right? And he's willing to be
Yes.
more vulnerable. And I think that that's a very interesting performance, aspect to bring
Yeah.
into that character. I think that that's something that it really shows how much deeper of a villain he is than Ramon was in the first one, right? Who doesn't really, he doesn't have that level of reflection. And you can, I think you can just kind of grasp that he's trying to understand why she would do that, and that he doesn't know, he can't figure it out. It's something that's eating at him, and he doesn't know why he's breaking down that way, but he knows that it has something to do with her, which is why he's so fascinated with her picture in the pocket watch. Um, I really like it, man. I think that that's maybe the strongest aspect of the movie for me, is that bit from this
Yeah, it
character.
feels, you know what it feels like in terms of like they sort of give you this little piece and they give you like these little clues of like what happened to him in his past, but they don't really put too fine a point on it. They don't really tell you exactly how he feels about this, only that he keeps thinking about it and it keeps coming back to him basically whenever he kills anyone or does something similar. You know what I mean? Like in a way that like is causing him physical discomfort of some kind, and he has to kind of like soothe himself, and so you don't really know why exactly. It reminds me just a little bit of my favorite moment in the first movie when he's like, I knew someone like you when I was younger and there was no one around to help. And it's like that, you can read so much into that, but they don't, you know they let you think about it, they let you chew on it.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot to chew on with that in particular. I think that that's really, like, yeah, one of the strongest aspects of the movie.
Yeah, it makes him more interesting than Clint Eastwood in this movie, that's for sure.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. So, Indio cackles as he, rears his head back, and his face appears on a wanted poster for $10,000, which the other two guys, the first one was 1,000 and the other one was about two. So this is the big one, right? This is
Oh
going
yeah.
to draw everybody in, the mother lode, you could say. And so our man with no name, well, first, we should talk. Lee Van Cleef's character sees the photo, or the print line photo of him, of that still frame of the movie, and sees that it is El Indio.
I love that his wanted poster is like basically an
It's
illustrated
basically an
still
illustrated
shot
still shot
of
from
him
what
laughing.
just
Oh,
happened. Yeah, which is as if the
beautiful.
illustrator had watched the movie. It's great.
You know what that is? That's like
It's a
the
lot of
kind of
fun.
gag you would get in an animated movie, and I mean that as a total compliment to this film.
Yeah,
Like that's that's incredible. Well, that's one of the things I really do appreciate about these movies, but especially the first one is that like
they are willing to be
because there's
funny. Yeah.
yeah, they're willing to be fun. And like because they're so stylized in terms of the cinematography and the use of music, you can get away with doing stuff like that because it's just like I don't know, it's just having fun with the form, if you will.
Yeah. So this is, I think, so this is a very important aspect because I think this is so there is a twist that's going to happen at the end of the movie. Do we want to talk about that now, or do we want to wait until we get there? Because I think that this is, you were asking me about some of the setup for it,
Okay,
for the
so
reveal.
let's just talk about it now.
Yeah.
So that I think maybe in terms of the story and the characterization of Lee Van Cleef's character, Mortimer, the most interesting thing about him is dropped on us at the very, very end of the movie. And so the question I had when I saw that moment was like, okay, that's an interesting idea, but did we actually do anything with it in the rest of the movie? Because I feel like either we didn't do anything at all with it, or we did something, but we didn't do enough, in my opinion. So, what's dropped on us at the very, very end is that the woman in the past that Indio, killed her husband, tried to rape her, and she killed herself. Um, that's Lee Van Cleef's sister.
Or his
That's
mother in, or no, his daughter in the Spanish version for some reason. Don't know why.
okay. Well, we didn't watch the Spanish version, so it's his sister,
Yes.
right? That's what's revealed to us at the very, very end of the movie because he has his own like identical matching pocket watch that also is a music box, right?
Yes.
And so it's revealed to us at the very, very end that like, oh, he wasn't actually really in it for the money. He was in it for revenge, right?
Yeah.
And that's an interesting reveal. I genuinely really interesting. And then Hugh, you've seen the movie twice now. I've only seen it once. Does that actually like factor into his behavior throughout the movie or did I just miss it?
Okay,
Like
so here's the thing. This is the first bit of setup that we get for it, right? Is that when I think what the movie is telling you when he sees Indio's face and there are a bunch of gunshots and a bunch of cuts between Lee Van Cleef and
yes.
Indio, and Lee Van Cleef and Indio, and it keeps getting closer and closer and closer into the eyes, and then everything like that. That is telling you pretty clearly that there is some form of history between the two characters, right?
I can see that in hindsight.
Yes.
The first time you watch it, you're just like, "Oh, that's fun. I like that. That's over the top and ridiculous
Yeah.
in a fun way." But okay, I can see that in hindsight that he recognized him and had like a "oh fuck" moment, right? Sure.
Yes.
What else?
There is a moment when he and Clint are talking that the music box melody is played in score as he's talking about like something that happened in his past. Those are as far as I can
Okay,
remember.
but what's he talking about in his past? Remind me.
I I don't remember what he's saying specifically. All I
Okay.
know is that he's talking about, like that he, basically talking about his history as a bounty hunter. I think it's like when he's saying, I've been in this business for 50 years, something like that, right? And
Okay.
he's trying to get him to team up. Those are the only two things I can remember of them setting up this twist reveal. That and the
Okay.
fact that his behavior is similar to Clint's from the first movie, right? In that you kind of get the feeling that he's doing this for some greater purpose, but you don't know what, right?
How do you okay, so because I didn't really get that sense from him until the end. So, like, what about his behavior leading up to that reveal gave you the indication or the feeling that, like, oh, maybe he's not just in it for the money?
That okay, so I guess it's because he's not like he doesn't kill Clint in the moment where they have the falling out, right? Where he basically says, you go your own way, I'll go mine, and he pulls the gun out and shoots him in the neck to, give him a better chance of getting in there, getting in with the gang, right? He still keeps his cool and the way that he interacts with Clint throughout, after that point where he comes into town. Clint's like, how you mind telling me how you got here? And they have their moment of basically being like, well, I figured that I figured you'd do exactly the opposite of what I suggested, and that Indio's too smart to listen to you, basically, right? So like he is doing he so it's more that he's got the handle on the situation that we don't seem to like. We don't know why he is sticking
Well,
around
to me,
necessarily,
that
but
just seems like he's, a committed and diligent and clever bounty hunter,
yeah.
right? So I think unless I'm missing something, unless we're both missing something, I really feel like this reveal is kind of just tacked on in a way that like is a missed opportunity more than anything else. Like I would have liked to see more throughout the movie of an indication or at least setting up the idea that like, oh, maybe he's in it for more than just the money. Maybe there's some secret reason, like, he has some opportunity to like take the money and run, but he doesn't, or something like some indication that he's in it for revenge, not just for the bounty. Because I I don't know if we really make good use of that.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that. I just like the only thing that I'm trying to, kind of give a little bit of credit to the movie in maybe a way that it didn't quite earn, is just that like it does feel, and maybe it's because that the reveal is coming when you watch it the second time, but it
Hmm.
does feel like he's got some, you're like, oh, he's doing this for a reason. There's something that's moving on. But I think you're right that it doesn't quite, you're looking at it without that information beforehand. He's not really changing his behavior to, like make it seem as if he's in it for anything other than the money. It's just that he's sort of manipulating the circumstances in a cleverer way and hanging around a bit
Yeah.
more. Um, that I
Because
think that,
I think really my issue with the movie is that like this reveal should give the movie more of a heart. Um, but we don't really make good use of it. Like I if okay, so the idea that Lee Van Cleef is actually doing it for revenge for his dead sister, I'm like, oh, that's cool. I almost wish we learned that halfway through instead of at the very, very end. You know what I mean? So we could like I don't know, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff in the second half where it's all riding on me wanting to see these two bounty hunters catch the bounty. And it's like, yeah, I want a little more emotional,
yeah, I can see that.
pull, just a little something like we had in the first movie, right? Like, and so if we learned that halfway through, that might be like a ooh, okay, now I'm really in it. Now I really want to see him accomplish this goal, right? Um, or at least if you're going to reveal it at the end, that I can look back to certain things and go, oh yeah, no shit, you know.
Yeah,
Other than the really fun editing when he first sees the poster, which you could just write
and
off as
and
like,
the one musical, because they only do it once, where they have the same music box melody playing, and it's not exactly like, it's not the tinny jingle, it's score, right?
yes,
So if you're not really looking for it, you probably won't notice it, right? But
yeah,
like those are the only two things that I can remember where it really gives you that sense. Otherwise, it does kind of get dropped on you right out of thin air at the end, basically. Right when Clint pulls the pocket watch out, we don't see, we don't see the pocket watch. Somebody asked earlier in the chat, do you even see Mortimer's pocket watch before Clint nicks it at the end and uses it to extend the like time on the
yeah,
shootout, right? We don't see him pull that out beforehand, really. And I think the
yeah,
reason is because that would give it away, right? Like,
yeah, but that would be an interesting thing to see. Because okay, correct me if I'm wrong. When do our heroes, and by that I mean Lee Van Cleef and Clint Eastwood, when do they first encounter the pocket watch? Because
isn't it right at the end?
do they encounter him
I don't
like
think that he. I
using
don't.
that like he's Two Face like his little gimmick thing? We don't see them notice that before, do we?
I don't remember them
I don't
noticing that.
remember it
Yeah.
either. So, like, one option is, like, we they encounter it before. Topaz dude makes a great point. It would have been interesting to somehow have Mortimer see, um,
Or yeah,
oh god,
hear the music
Indio.
box. Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, has some visceral reaction to it. That would be interesting in a way that you go like, "Huh, why is he reacting so strongly to that?" Or as more setup, if we as an audience in a sort of like, what's the word for that? Dramatic irony sort of fashion, we see that Lee Van Cleef has a very similar pocket watch, and we go, "Huh, that's interesting. What's that?" Is a little clue, but, our 2 characters have not encountered Indio's little pocket watch thing, so they don't know the connection, but we see a possible connection and then wonder what that might be. And then later when it's revealed, we go, "Oh," you know? Something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Something like that would be nice, I think. I think that would help improve,
Yeah, that would
what
just,
what we're
give it a
getting.
little more something, a little more meat on the bones. Yeah, because Topaz that's such a great point. If there was an opportunity to see Indio do this to someone, like Lee Van Cleef witnesses him do this, like and, like, he has a visceral reaction to it, but he has to keep his cool, and maybe even Clint Eastwood, like, notices him have that reaction and
Yeah.
just, like, doesn't
Give
react
Clint a
to
little
it.
more options, or a few more options to take an active role in,
Yeah, because one of the things I liked so much about his character in the first movie is that he's, like, very observant and, like, clever and sneaky, and there's, like, a little bit of that in this, but,
a
like
little, but they really nerfed that for him in this one.
yeah,
I feel like
they give it more to Lee Van Cleef,
yeah.
really, which is fine. I almost wish in that sense that Clint Eastwood wasn't in the movie. Sorry, buddy, but, like, if he was replaced by literally anyone else, that would help, or, like, if Lee Van Cleef was I don't know, is he the main character in this? Kind of,
Kind
right?
of. Yeah, I mean,
Kind
especially
of.
you'll notice that more if you watch it a second time. Like he is pretty much the guy that the plot revolves around, really. Like Clint's character is sort of playing catch up the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I didn't it just I didn't love it as much as the first one, right? Because I did sort of want him to, I want, and it's not that he's not active, right? He is taking an active role in events of the movie, but I
Sure.
did want more.
He's not leading
He's
it.
not lead. I don't necessarily need him to lead it either, because it's not like I like Mad Max Fury Road. I think that works pretty well, but I want more opportunity for a character like Clint's to be, like, to show us more of what he does in the first one,
Yeah.
than in this one. He always just kind of feels like he's on the back foot for the most part
Yes.
in this,
Yeah.
and it's just not quite as compelling for me. I'd like a little more on that front.
So anyway, we were jumping around. So basically, we're at the moment where Lee Van Cleef sees the wanted poster for the first time,
Right?
right?
Yeah, yeah. So he sees the one. Lee Van Cleef sees the wanted poster, and we get that fun editing where it zooms in and out, it cuts in and out and in and out with a bunch of gunshots. Essentially informing us that this is, there's something between the two of them. That's pretty much all you're gonna get, for the movie. And then Clint is headed to help. Oh, Mortimer finds out that
Really
yes,
quick. Sorry, I got to jump in because Clint is definitely not the main character here,
yes,
and he
yeah,
is playing second fiddle in someone else's story. But like you just said, there's a way to make that work where there's more for him to do and be impressive and be the guy we liked from the first movie. Like there's plenty of like cool. He's still a really quick shot, and isn't that awesome? There's plenty of that in this movie still. But I do feel like by comparison, Mad Max in Fury Road has more to do. You know what I mean? More to
yeah,
do that is awesome and cool and like active in the story and not
yeah.
just like
Despite not
reacting to
really
things.
being the main character, right? Like I
Yeah,
think that
exactly.
there
I
is a way
think
to do it. And somebody else mentioned Jack Burton, and I yes, but like we're
that's
not.
a farce.
That's more of a farce. Yeah, that's a farcical version of this, and I'll be honest. If this had been that, Like if they had leaned entirely into that, I would have liked it even less. Just based on
Yeah, I wouldn't. No,
where
I
the
wouldn't
first,
want
yeah,
that for him.
I would not want that
No.
for this character.
Yeah.
I do just come away from this and I like, so obviously, look, I get it. I understand. I still enjoy the movie. I just don't I want more from this character in like and because we didn't get that, it just didn't hit for me the way the
Yeah.
first one did.
Because
That's
I
yeah.
I I love the first one
Yeah.
now. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like
I would
I,
honestly be willing to call the first one like one of my favorite movies now. Like,
yeah,
it's just
it's
really
up
good.
there, man.
Yeah.
It's really really good. So that's part of what we're dealing with this movie. It's just that by comparison, it's it's not hitting quite as hard. You know, still
Yeah.
quite a bit better, quite a bit better than most
Yeah.
movies made today.
For sure.
So
And real quick,
don't get it
I
twisted.
also just want to reassure Kevo here because he asks, "Am I
This is all for you,
crazy for
Kevo.
liking Fury Road less and less as the years go by? The more I think about it, the more problems I have with it." You're not.
No, you're
You're not.
definitely
You're
not.
definitely not crazy.
Yeah, it is in many senses like a profoundly stupid movie, but it's
It's
fun.
fun. It is
It's
fun,
fun.
but like it's not one of it's it's not going to hold up to the most to the scrutiny of the ages, especially not if you include Furiosa as,
Oh God, ugh, Fury Road is a piece of shit movie. Terrible, terrible. Doesn't even have any of like what is redeeming and fun about Fury Road. Yeah, because Fury Road's one of those movies where it's like oh, evil bad guy trying to control everyone. They have to fight the evil bad guy. Like it's that kind of level of morality and that sort of thing. But like if you don't take it seriously, like Fury Road starts to become really stupid when people try to act like it's a very serious, like, oh yes, it's a very deep movie. It's about
it's
feminism, really, and
yes.
egalitarianism. I'm just like, dude, the guy is like, don't become addicted to water. It's like, come on, like this is, I,
We send my war rig for bullets from the bullet farm.
where they grow
Where they grow
bullets.
bullets. Now, like,
It's just a ridiculous, fun excuse for like really awesome action
yeah,
scenes, and the action scenes
there's a
are
sick
really
guy in a
awesome.
costume playing a guitar that shoots fire, and he's like strapped to a bunch of bungee cables in front of it. Like, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's fun.
It's really cool. And like this is like all that to say if it did have a sort of like less stupid kind of core to it, it would make it better. I'm not saying you can't criticize it, but it is a little like all right, like this is best enjoyed as something that you just kind of go along for the roller coaster ride. Whereas
Yes.
Furiosa doesn't even have the roller coaster ride anymore. It's like,
Yeah,
oh, well.
Furiosa is what happens when Fury Road just starts taking itself way too fucking seriously. But
Oh, it was so bad. It was so bad. Anyway,
back to a good movie. Um,
yes.
so remind me where we're at. We just saw him see Indio's poster, and
Mhm.
now he's basically like he goes to the bank to interrogate the guy. Okay, how do we feel about the bank scene where he goes to sort of like ascertain from the banker which bank in the area is the most
Yeah.
secure?
Yeah.
Because yeah, okay. So he's
He is deduced that Indio is probably going to rob a bank, and because he has such an ego about him, he'll probably try to hit the
the
biggest,
biggest
safest,
one.
most secure bank. And so he goes into another bank to say like, well, it's kind of like it's like a half fun little gag where he goes in there to talk to the bank manager, kind of asking which is the most secure bank, but also he's sort of like letting on or acting like maybe he's a criminal
Yeah,
or a
maybe
bank
he's gonna
robber.
rob the bank. Like it's an interesting strategy
I
for
found it funny. I
yeah.
found it like kind of fun and kind of cool in a way that he is trying to get this information, but is also willing to just let this guy squirm just because it's kind of funny, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah,
Do you have an issue with it?
the second time I was watching it, like he comes in to do it, and I'm like, okay, yeah. He's going in because he's ascertained that Indio wants to rob the biggest, toughest bank, because he wants to be the guy who has robbed the biggest, toughest bank, right? And so when he comes in to do this, and he's like, suppose I'm a bandit and I want to rob someplace, and it's just like, i- is this really is this the move? Like, do you need to do you need to do the whole strategy with, like, I want to rob the toughest, like, I don't know. It seems it's funny, but then the more I think about it, the more I'm just like, I feel like you didn't have to do
You
that to
didn't have
get
to do
like to
that.
get that information. Like,
No, it's just fun, man.
yeah,
Get it. Like that.
get
It's
it. Yeah, it's so much
there's
fucking
a lot of
fun,
stuff in
Jan.
this movie that feels like Quentin Tarantino in that interview being like, because it's fun, Jan, get it. Like
Yeah,
that's
you know what?
kind of
I can get behind that, right? I
yeah.
just, when I see him go in to do that, I'm like, okay, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, and it works. You got, you figured out which bank is the biggest and toughest in the area. I
Georges Rex
feel like he would have just
says,
told you that.
are the civvies supposed to recognize him, or is he just intimidating? I think he's just
I think it's
intimidating.
just
I
that
think
he's intimidating, and he
yeah.
has a gun on him, right? Like he
Well,
looks
there's that, but like on the train when he like pulls the Bible down from in front of his face, the guy just looks at him and gets the like, oh
the
shit, maybe I
heebie-jeebies.
shouldn't
Yeah,
mess with you. Yeah, because and that's honestly working quite a bit like Clint Eastwood in the first movie where it's like
yeah.
he's playing it ambiguous and is keeping his cards close to his chest, and he's generally sort of gruff and intimidating and competent, but you don't really know what he's after. And like for example, like Lee Van Cleef is wearing a black hat for most of this movie as well. So like everything about him is like, are you a villain? I can't tell exactly if you're a villain or not. But like, yeah, when he sees him on the train, he's just like, oh, you, you have a very menacing look about you. And I genuinely like that ultimately he's not a villain. I think that's
No,
more interesting.
he's actually, I mean, it's like his massive. People are saying it's his massive aura. He's rolling a 20 in his intimidation checks, every
Yeah,
time.
every
So
time.
yeah, I mean, it's fine. I was like, I feel like he could. I feel like he would have just told you, like, what's
Yeah,
the
there was
biggest,
no
safest bank?
necessary. It wasn't necessary for
Yeah,
the scene to
yeah,
like
and so I'm
play
just like, oh,
into the like
he's
maybe I'm a
intimidating.
bank
Yeah,
robber.
maybe I'm a bank robber and I want to rob someplace. And so the
Okay,
guy's,
okay, okay. I had a thought. Tell me if you think this makes sense as a motivation. If he goes into the local bank guy, and he's trying to figure out who's got the best bank around, and
like,
he's
obviously the
made
local bank guy is going to say, well, we do, like, yeah, because
yes,
he wants
yes,
the
that was
business,
my
right?
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if he doesn't want him to say that,
He,
what might he
he
do?
might insinuate, well, I'm going to rob the best bank yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. You know what? Okay. I buy it.
In that
I'm
case, he's
good.
like, our bank, by comparison, I mean, we're good, but we're not that good. You need to go to El Paso. Maybe
Ephraim,
that's the logic. I could see that
maybe
being
I
the
could see
logic.
that. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Ephraim Winslow says he's very much the Severus Snape of Western movies. What are you talking about? He's not black.
Yeah,
He's
he's
not a,
black now. He always has been black,
he's always
actually.
has
That's
been
how it
black.
works.
Yeah.
You have to tell me
Alan
if
Rickman is
are you a
probably
villain? You have to tell me if you're a villain.
it's the law.
That's pretty
That
good.
is good. But
Legally, you have to tell me if you're a villain. Ugh, that's pretty.
yeah, but yeah, so I buy it. I'm in. I like it. So he's going to El Paso, and as it turns out, so is Clint. Clint's going to El Paso as well, and he rides into town, and immediately a little urchin boy who's been playing horseshoes in the street comes running up to him. I love the long dolly shot that he does for this one. It's very Spielbergy in
Yeah,
this scene, right? Where he
yeah.
starts on the kids playing horseshoes, and then we move back as the kid rushes up to Clint, and then we start moving along the dolly track with the kid. Being like, you need a
Hmm.
stable, you need a hotel. Oh yeah, I can do that for you. And here you are. Now this is where you're gonna stay. You can stay at that place, but there's gonna be cockroaches, and you're gonna have to shoot them. So you'd probably prefer to stay here. This one has a landlady. Is like,
Is
and
she
is she
married?
married?
He's like,
Yeah.
no, but she doesn't
He's a
care.
yes, but she doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
which is funny as shit. He walks it,
Yeah.
and then he has like his aura farming bit for like, because we got to match, we got to match dick sizes here. So
There's so much of that in the movie.
he's it's
Unbelievable.
like, okay,
How
so we
much of
just
the
saw
runtime is like, oh, if you think Lee Van Cleef is cool, don't worry, Clint Eastwood is also cool. Don't worry.
in equal or greater measure. Don't you worry, you're gonna see it. Because how he does it here is he wants to keep an eye on the other hotel in town, right? So he goes into this hotel with the flirty, buxom landlady and her hobbit of a husband, right? Who, we're gonna just
That's quite a fun gag because there's
yes,
like a platform above there. You can't actually tell how short he is.
until he
And
steps down
yeah, until after she compliments Clint Eastwood on
for
being
being tall.
tall,
Yeah,
he gets all grumpy
uh,
with her because she's constantly flirting with
you're just
everyone but him.
dirty.
You're just dirty. And then he like steps down from whatever like stool he's on and we see how short he is. That's fun.
It
I
is.
like
I
that.
like that. Well, so like Clint wants the room right above the front porch that looks out at the other hotel because he wants to keep an eye on anybody else coming into town because he also has intuited that perhaps Indio will be making his way here, right? So they have a little bit of a spat over that room being taken, and he just pulls out the register and crosses the dude's name out and goes, "Look at that, it's opened up. I'll go get it. I'll take care of it." And he just walks up the stairs to kick the guy out of his room. Which
Yeah.
is fucking sick. And the guy
Yeah.
comes running down the stairs, asking to check out and everything, and then Clint follows
In
him.
haste, I should say. Like he's been threatened.
Yes, and legitimately threatened, and so then Clint comes down and manages to throw him his long johns because he doesn't wear underpants, because he's a cool guy. He don't
He's
wear
cool.
under, yeah.
He's commando.
He goes
Uh,
commando.
a couple a couple things. Kevo says, "Is Spielberg a fan of Leone?" He must be.
He has to be.
It
There's no,
unmistakable.
yeah.
There's so much of his DNA in these two movies already.
You can
Like,
look at
yeah.
almost any shot from this and immediately see that the horizon is not in the middle of the frame, so I guarantee Spielberg is like a big fan.
Yeah, but these long compound moves and stuff like that, there's a lot of them in this
Yeah.
movie, and very, very clearly you can see the DNA, but especially in like early Spielberg stuff, like Jaws and Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I mean this scene in the hotel lobby, right? Like we have the frame of the owner, the wife, and Clint at the desk, and he crosses it out. He walks upstairs. He walks off, so the camera kind of follows him, and then comes back to the little guy stepping down off the platform. He walks over to the front. The camera follows him, and then the camera comes back as the other guy rushes down the stairs. And then it's there's a lot of great movement and
Oh
compound
yeah.
compositions here. It's fantastic, really. I mean, like
I
Spielberg
love the way
has to
this
love
movie is shot. It
yeah.
looks really, really good. And I do think there is like a noticeable like budget increase in this movie, just in the overall way the film looks. It just looks like slightly more polished, you know. It looks really good. I mean, not the first movie looked great too, but this one, the first movie was relatively, I mean, they're both all things considered relatively low budget, but I think
What was
this
the
one definitely.
difference in the budget
Oh,
between these two,
I'm gonna
actually?
look it up.
Yeah.
Actually, you look up A Fistful of Dollars budget, and I'll look up this one because I
I
know it
already
was
have this one.
more.
I already got this. This one
Oh,
was 600,000.
I think the first one was like 240, something like that.
That's a
If
big.
memory serves.
This is 200.
Okay, yeah, so it was a threefold increase.
Yeah. So the first, 200 to 225. So yeah, about 230. That was for Fistful of Dollars. Box office 20 million. And
Wow,
yeah, and then this one for 600,000, box office 25 million. So you know what?
pretty good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. And then the good, the bad, and the ugly budget 1.2 million. And I'll tell you what, that you can definitely tell
Yes.
that is twice as expensive as for a few dollars more. You can tell, especially in the big like Civil War battle scenes. It's like, oh, okay, and that made 38 million. So
Hey, hell
all
yeah.
pretty huge successes. Good for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now Clint and Lee Van Cleef are both staying in town, and Indio delivers his parable from the pulpit in an old church. Uh Another thing that we talked about in the last movie, right, is how some of the Italian Catholic themes and vibes sort of bled into Fistful of Dollars in
Yeah.
in ways that I think go underappreciated, in particular by film critics in general, right? But in this one, maybe not so much into the story, but definitely into some of the set pieces and into some of the score. So in the earlier scene where Indio has the guy who caught him first, like stand off with him as the pocket watch plays the song, it transitions from the jingle into a full-on like organ, like a church organ playing,
Yeah.
this really interesting, I mean, a really great theme, right? And it's very tense and it builds up with, the cuts between the two of them. And then in this scene with the parable that he tells about the carpenter who couldn't make any money, right? Or but he did well enough, but he didn't make a lot of money, who made the safe, the disguise for the safe in the Bank of El Paso. Um he walks in, they're occupying essentially a broken down church, and Indio walks up to the pulpit and starts telling, basically giving them the plan for what they're going to do to rob the Bank of El Paso and steal the vault, out from underneath everybody's nose. And it does also play some of this, organ hymn type music as he's doing it, which I think is an interesting choice. Yeah, it really adds some flavor to the plan and to just the general vibe of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still there. Not as rich as the first movie because it feels more disconnected from the story. But I do like a lot of that stuff a lot. And like when he goes, it's kind of interesting because he goes on into the pulpit and sort of talks about the parable, and he's like, "There once was a carpenter," and you're like, "Oh, is this going to be like, is he going to do a thing about Jesus?" And it's like, no, it's more of like a story of someone he met in prison, a carpenter who made money as a carpenter by selling safes, but he like helped build safes. So he built like furniture that could disguise a metal safe inside of it, right? And so that guy was in prison because he tried to steal the money from one of the banks he did this for, and
Yeah.
it was not successful. He got thrown in prison, but he shared a cell with Indio, who now knows the location of a safe. So that's a fun little clever thing that like this really secure, like famously secure bank in El Paso. Their safe isn't actually in a vault. It's kind of like hidden inside of what is otherwise a rather like ordinary like what's the word? Dresser, you know?
Yes. Yeah, like a cabinet, right?
Yeah.
Is yeah,
That's really
it's a
interesting. I
bar
like that.
cabinet actually too, right? Like so they disguised it as the bar cabinet that they use to offer drinks to the high depositors, which
Yeah.
is also
It's cool. I
kind
like
of
that.
cool. Yeah.
And there's a lot of fun shots of the cabinet, which is maybe a weird thing to say, but like they keep cutting to it a lot in the movie, especially when they're like going to break in. Like they keep like hard cutting from like action that's happening elsewhere to the cabinet, and it's like a very just like front facing
Schiffer.
flat shot of the cabinet in a way that like I don't know, every time we cut to it, it like kind of made me laugh a little. I don't know why. It's just something kind of like unassuming about it in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, I do like that. He has a perfect little like soap carving, or like a little wooden carving of the exact cabinet that they're going to use, which is also fun, to imagine that he
Yeah.
he did that while he was in prison. I like that.
Yeah, little
And then it
details.
cuts from the
Good stuff.
cabinet straight to the cabinet as the guy at the bank is explaining to Lee Van Cleef that this is the most secure bank. Trying to rob us would be somebody suicidal would do that. He says, yeah, or a complete madman. And then we get a
Here's a question.
yeah.
I was only curious because I was trying to figure out how much money, because in this scene, the bank manager of the El Paso bank says that they have $500,000 in reserve on hand, right?
Yes.
And to which Lee Van Cleef says, "Are you sure this bank is secure enough to hold that much?" Right? And I was like, okay, when does the story take place?
Oh, that's a good
Yeah,
question. Yeah. Okay.
'cause
So
I don't actually know that, and I'm kind of curious about it.
it I think okay. So the only
Roughly speaking.
roughly speaking, this has got to be post Civil War at this point, right? And
Yeah,
they
I
do
think
have
so.
Confederate dollars in the vault at the end of this movie.
Okay.
So I don't know. Yeah, I feel like this has to
Wait,
be
wouldn't those
yeah.
be worthless after the Civil War?
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was about to bring up, like, so that, like, because you can see Confederate states on some of the money. Um
Wait, do you think
is this yeah.
Wait, my thought was like, okay, obviously they had to get a lot of money as props for the movie. Do you think they just found it easier to get like actual Confederate dollars because they're so worthless? No, they probably
Did
wouldn't be worthless
so
anymore as like
yeah,
a
okay, thanks, Kevo. I was actually hoping that you would send this back real quick. So in 1873 is the year the single action army revolver came out, which at least one person in this movie is using it. So it has to be like, based on that, it would have to be after 1873,
okay.
which would be like at least 10, about 10 years after the end of the Civil War. But The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly takes place during the Civil War. And then there was a gravestone in Fistful of Dollars that has a specific date on it as well. That was also after the Civil War. So
Okay. I'm gonna say, just for the sake of argument, that this movie takes place in 1873. It's probably a couple years later, but who cares? I just wanted to know how much $500,000 was in today's money, and that is 13.7 million. That's how much this bank has on
damn.
hand, relatively speaking. So yeah, it's a lot of money. A lot of money. But it is an interesting question, just when it takes place exactly. But the gun existing at a certain time, that's a good clue for sure. We have another super chat from Kevo. Says, I love these movies. They made a huge impression on me in high school. While I might disagree with you guys on which one is the favorite, I am very happy you guys are discussing them, warts and all. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm having fun.
Yeah, yeah.
I did enjoy watching this movie. Don't,
Yeah,
don't get
yeah.
me
I don't
wrong.
want to. I don't want to give the impression that I did not like it. I just did not like it as much. The first one is my favorite so far.
The first one I adore now. I
Yeah,
I can't stop thinking about how much I love that movie.
yeah. But
Actually,
I own both of these in 4K now, and I couldn't be happier about having them. Like, really, they're great. So
hmm it really is a few dollars more. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I suppose you could say that. All right, where were we? Okay, so he's in the bank. He's getting the tour of the bank.
yes. He gets the tour of the bank. He basically finds out like, the security is top notch. Only a complete madman would try to rob it. We get them dancing around each other a little bit. The Indio's crew rides into town to count the seconds as the marshals, you know, patrol.
Do a loop
Yeah,
around the
they
building.
do a
Yeah.
loop around the building. For the number, which isn't okay. That doesn't come back later, does it? Really? Like, because the plan ends up being that Clint and one group will go to Santa Cruz and rob the bank there to draw everybody away from the Bank of El Paso so that there will be only one guy left so that they can break in. Like, does the counting for the patrol end up mattering? I don't remember.
Oh, I don't remember that it did end up
Yeah, I
mattering.
feel like that they do that and then it immediately goes by the wayside essentially
Yeah,
once
that's a shame in hindsight. In hindsight, it could
maybe
have
the
been
chat
interesting.
remembers that some like how that plays into it. I don't remember it playing into it. I feel like the plot it eventually ends up being like, oh no, we're gonna cause a distraction and wire from Santa Cruz for backup so that all the backup leaves so that it's easier to get into the El Paso one. So anyway, um, Mortimer is watching them do this through. This is such a great gag too, right? Like Mortimer is watching them do this through a spyglass through his window, right?
Mhm.
and then he like looks to his left, and we get this shot of Clint just staring right at him with a pair of binoculars.
I genuinely, my
I
favorite moment in the
I
movie.
laughed.
It's just
I
so
genuinely
funny.
laughed out loud. It's so good.
Yeah, and both because he looks at him and he takes the eyeglass, like spyglass, away from his eye, and he pulls it back up, and Clint Eastwood's still staring at him, hasn't flinched, hasn't moved in the slightest. It's really funny.
Yeah, well, and then like they both, pull them down and they nod at each other and kind of smile before they pull the curtains. So, you start to get the sense that this is the team up, we're about
But
to.
this is the well, because they haven't met at any point earlier, right? Have they?
No,
No.
no, no, no. I mean,
Okay, so yeah,
he sees him coming out of the hotel when the little kid points it out. At,
right, right, right. So yeah, it's like okay, we have two competing bounty hunters, right? That's competing, and then they sort of form a sort of like loose
Well,
alliance with each other.
first, what's going to happen is another dick measuring contest at in the middle of the night, as they,
Oh man,
step outside and shoot each other's hats, up the street, basically, for quite
I
a while.
I don't like this scene. I don't. First of all, wouldn't they like have holes in the hats?
Well, okay, so you'll have to tell me if you noticed this, because I did not notice this in Fistful of Dollars, but somebody said that Clint's hat in Fistful of Dollars has holes in it. So this scene is explaining where the hat got the holes, but I
But
don't.
the hat doesn't
The hat
have the
doesn't get
holes
holes
after the
in it
shootout.
after the shootout. Like he
No,
doesn't.
it
Yeah,
doesn't.
I don't really. I don't
Like, because I
remember.
was looking for it. Like, are they just shooting each other's hats around? Like, their hats are gonna be like worthless or full of holes, but no, they aren't. They're just fine for the rest of the movie. This scene just does nothing but take me out of it. Like, it doesn't do anything at all for me. Like, yes, they're both very good shots, and they're dick measuring. It goes on so long. That's the big problem. But like, I don't know. I don't find anything of especially redeeming value in this scene. I'm afraid. Uh,
Oh, his hat
I
does
don't
have
care
holes
for
in
it.
it in Fistful of Dollars. So yeah, I guess there is that. I would have.
But like,
I literally didn't even notice that though. So
it's
I
got like
don't.
little tiny, tiny, tiny ones later in this movie, maybe. But
There's a
it's
few,
like
yeah. I think you can see
I
one
don't
or
know.
two of them as the trailer goes through, but like, yeah, that it's a little harder
Is
for
it the
me to.
same ones that he has in the first movie? Like where?
I don't. I can't quite make it out, honestly.
I don't know. Based on how many times they get shot, you would think those hats would be in much worse condition than they ended up being. Like it wasn't really obvious that they got shot. To me, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I just
Yeah.
missed
I don't know,
the
man.
tiny holes. It just didn't do anything for me.
They're made of the same stuff that John Wick's suits are made out of in 3 and 4. They just
It
bullets
shows
just
that
bounce
Mortimer
off of
is the
them.
better shot. It's like, yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah,
I got that.
yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's just
But
I was just
so like,
begging
it's
the movie
it
to
is
move
kind of
on at
funny
this
how
point.
like how it happens, right? Like it takes for like the kid is offering commentary on it. It's just like, oh my god, he shot his hat. Oh my god, he shot his hat again. Maybe it's a trick. He's going
Like
to pick it up.
when they first like see each other, they like step on each other's boots, and then it cuts to the kid being like, just like the game we used to play as kids or something. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I don't know. I feel like it was supposed to make me less confused as to why they
Well,
were
I
stepping on
think
each other's
it's
boots.
also supposed to just like maybe it's like a thing for the parents in the audience to be like, ha ha ha, kids play like that. Kids do this all the time. They're just a couple of boys.
Boys being boys.
Boys will be boys, kind of thing. I don't know. This scene is the part where it drags the most for me. Oh, I think we might have skipped over talking about when he strikes the match off of the hunchback,
we
because
we
there's a
did.
hunchback in this movie.
Yeah, that's true. There
Which,
is.
yeah, we need more hunchbacks in more freaks in our movies, please. Is what I would like America to get back to. Um,
Yeah, so we need more freaks, but they need to be like recognized as freaks, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. They're not just normal. No, the Hunchback. We need to refer to them as the Hunchback and
Yeah.
nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd bring it back. Raid freak shows for talent again.
Man,
Let's
freak
make
shows. That's not really a thing we do anymore, unfortunately.
no. Now we call them No Kings
Have you
protests.
ever Pretty good. Have you seen the X-Files episode where they go to like a traveling circus and there's like a bunch of the freaks?
No, I haven't seen.
Oh,
I
that's
haven't
a
seen
good
very
one.
many X Files episodes at all, actually.
There's some bangers in there. Anyway, where were we? What are we doing? So they have the big, long, extended dick measuring contest, and then they sit in a room together and go like, "Hey, maybe we should team up." Right? That's the long and short of it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, but
Because
yeah.
don't
Well,
they?
yeah. Like I do kind of like how it builds up, to this scene of him juggling the hat, and then it just cuts to the two of them chilling and smoking in the room together, and just being like, "Hmm, you're pretty good at this. Yeah, well,
So
we're
bad
both pretty
yourself.
good about. You're not so bad yourself. Yeah, it's The Rock and Vin Diesel teaming up. Yeah, an immovable Dwayne The Rock Johnson meets an unstoppable Vin Diesel train, and there we go. But yeah, the Hunchback is introduced at one point in this scene or in this sequence as an secondary villain who he takes a lot of basically he just gets really mad because Lee Van Cleef antagonizes him deliberately, which is fucking hysterical. Just walks up to him at the bar and lights a match off of his hunch, which I can
Yeah.
imagine would piss you off if you were a hunchback. Maybe if you a hunchback with a fragile ego. But yeah, so they team up.
Wait, is he a hunchback in real life or is that fake?
I don't know.
I don't know anything about. Multiple people have mentioned his name, Klaus Kinski, and that he was a lunatic in real life. I had not heard of anything about him, but he does have a mental illness section on Wikipedia. So
Really?
that and a sexual abuse allegations section as
Oh,
well.
my goodness. Okay, hold on, wait. Yeah, we gotta
Oh,
check this out.
you
Yeah, we
wanna
gotta
go into
do a little
that? All
bit of a
right.
deep dive on that. Hold on, I did not know this. Uh, mental. He has a.
Equally renowned for his intense performance style and his notoriously eccentric and volatile personality. He appeared in over 130 film roles, yada yada. Um, oh, is he the guy in Agira, the Wrath of God? Is that him? Is that he's the main? Oh yeah, he's the main guy in that. Okay, interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Posthumously, he was accused of physically and sexually abusing his daughters. Yikes!
Yikes.
That's gonna be a big yikes from me. Everyone say yikes in the chat. Oh Lord. His notoriety and prolific output has developed into a widespread cult following and a reputation as a popular icon. Well,
Oh, okay. In
separate the
1950,
art
he
from
was
the
in a
artist. Am I
psychiatric
right?
hospital in West Berlin for 3 days after stalking his theatrical sponsor and attempting to strangle her. Um, Medical records from the period listed a diagnosis of schizophrenia, but the doctor's ultimate conclusion was psychopathy.
Oh, that's worse.
Yeah, wow. Okay. So he actually Jesus.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah.
Okay, wait. In 1950, it says Kinski soon became unable to secure film roles, and in 1955 he attempted suicide twice. And then immediately after that is a picture of a screenshot of him in a movie called Five for Hell from 1969. So it didn't affect his career that bad, I guess, because he got back into the movies. Pretty
Oh, his daughter was in Paris, Texas. That's interesting.
damn. Wait,
What an interesting little. Oh
yeah, and this
boy.
movie came out in the 60s, so they they just like kept hiring him. They're like,
Yeah.
the guy's got the energy, man. He's got
He's
like
just got a look
exactly.
about him.
He's got a look
He's
about
just
him.
got that
He
it
just seems
factor.
like the type of guy who would kill you in a bar for lighting a match off his ass. Like, when there's just something about we got to get him in our movie. Holy Holy shit! What an interest. Is he in the next one?
Oh, I don't know.
Did he follow the rest of this troop around? Like, let me see.
Let's find out. Let's see. Klaus Kinski, is he in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly?
Oh fuck hell, he's in Dr. Zhivago. No, he is not in The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. They just were like, I don't know.
A little too volatile on set.
Excuse me. Yeah, interesting.
Well, interesting. What
Very
a
interesting.
lunatic.
What a he appeared in a movie called Psychopath. Oh, that's funny. Close enough, Kanye West. Welcome back. He is German. Maybe that explains everything. The spirit of Klaus Kinski.
Kanye is visited by a spirit yelling German in the middle of the night, and he assumes it's Hitler, but it's actually
Klaus Kinski. That's great.
Anywho, we're talking about a movie. So yeah, there's a hunchback played by Klaus Kinski who was a really cool guy in real life.
Hold on, wait a minute.
Very cool.
Ephraim Wednesday. Ephraim Winslow.
Ephraim
Ephraim Wednesday. Again, tribal leaders for Fitzcarraldo literally offered to get him lost in the jungle on purpose, but Herzog said no because he needed Kinski to finish the movie. That's probably.
We can get rid of this guy if you want.
We can literally. Nobody will miss him. Nobody will. His daughters will not call.
Oh Lord!
Oh fuck! He's Dracula and Herzog's Nosferatu.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my
of course he is. Of course he is.
Holy shit! Oh, we might have to do a deep dive on this man at some point.
Have you seen many of Herzog's movies?
No, I haven't. I tried watching the Dracula one for the Nosferatu stream, or the Nosferatu.
Yeah,
the Herzog Nosferatu for the stream, and I just got kind of. I was kind of burnt out on Dracula movies. You know,
that's fair.
I can't do Dracula adaptations anymore, man. Like I just can't. They all suck. They're all bad. So anyway, real German psychopath Klaus Kinski is playing a hunchback in this movie, and he's a volatile psychopath. One could say he's not acting. It's the role he was born to play. So anyway, where were we again? Because we skipped ahead. Oh, they team up. They're teaming up.
Yeah, they team up, and basically they sort of they realize that they could work together instead of working at cross purposes or competing against each other and maybe threatening both of them and all that sort of stuff. And eventually, Lee Van Cleef is like, you know what we should do is you should infiltrate their gang. And Clint Eastwood kind of rightfully is his whole attitude, the way he responds to it is basically that seems like you got the really good deal here. You don't have to do anything and I have to go pretend to go undercover in this gang, essentially. But that's their plan, Lee Van Cleef will be on the outside and Clint Eastwood will be on the inside. So he has to sort of find a way to enter into his gang so he can get the inside scoop on where they're going, all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
Which is a bold move, Cotton. Let's see how it pays
off.
Well,
and I mean, it's kind of giving me, what I want out of, the Clint character, because that is sort of what he does in Fistful of Dollars, right? He infiltrates both groups and plays them off each other. So I'm like, okay, cool. Here we go. We're gonna get somewhere. Let's keep going. And so his pitch, God, this is so funny too, right? Because he's just like, so how exactly am I supposed to join? Oh, here's the other bit. This is the point where they're where they're also kind of setting up Lee Van Cleef's history with Indio, right? They're getting ready to hatch the plan. He says, you got to go infiltrate Indio's gang, because that way, we got one man on the inside, one on the outside. There's too many of them for us to just take them in a straight shootout. And so he goes, okay, and how exactly do you suggest that I do that? And he says, well, maybe you should bring him a bunch of roses. He goes, well, you could, or you could bring him, Sancho something or other, the guy who's, in jail for 4 years, his friend, right? The guy he likes. And he's just like, how do you know all of this? Like, how do you know this much about Indio? How, like, that this is all gonna, whatever. He goes, well, I have my information too. And that's all he says about it. So that's the bit where
Okay.
they're setting up more of the
Yeah.
history. It's still not
Okay.
much. It is there.
No, it's not enough, but it is something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That like and he plays it off like, like you, I have my information and that this is part of my job is to have this information. But in hindsight, you can read it like, oh, he knows a lot about him because he's out to get him. In
Yeah.
addition to like, just being a bounty hunter in general, he's kind of like awaiting the opportunity to kill Indio as revenge. So okay, that's something.
Yeah.
That's well, that's something.
Yeah, exactly. So Clint, this is one of my favorite parts too, right? Is that Clint goes to the jail to break Sancho out, and like Sancho wakes up in the middle of the night and just sees Clint leaning over the window and like smoking and waving at him as he puts a thing of dynamite in there and like ducks
Yeah.
down. It's really funny. I love it. I think it's
Yeah.
great. Good little sequence. They ride off, and he brings Sancho to Indio. They celebrate, and he's like, "Oh, this guy got me out. That's how I'm here now today, Indio." And so he's just like, "Well, and did you ask him what he wants from you?" And he's just like, "Oh, hey, good idea. Hey, what do you want from me?" And Clint's so okay. I like this line, kind of, but he basically just says, figured I'd just, maybe I'd tag along and turn you all over to the law. And I was like,
Well, yeah, well, he
okay,
doesn't say it quietly like that. So he
it's
said,
pretty close.
well, okay, what he says is, well, there's such a big reward being offered on all you gentlemen that I thought I might tag along on your next robbery. Might just turn you into the law. So there's kind of like a little switch. So like he says, there's such a big reward being offered on you gentlemen that I thought maybe like you guys must be good criminals and maybe I ought to tag along.
Yeah.
Or like maybe I'll turn you in. It's like a
A
little
little
like
like
you don't
tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. Yeah,
playful.
you
Yeah.
don't really know. Yeah, okay. Yep.
Because
I'm with it.
India's trying to assess whether he's trustworthy or whether he has good motives, and so he's kind of doing an interesting move where he's like leaning into the fact that like no, you can't trust me, kind of thing as a way of kind of
Yeah.
proving that he is a criminal. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah, I get you. It's sort of it's sort of reverse psychology.
It is a little
Yeah.
reverse psychology, like because he wouldn't say that if he was. The logic is he wouldn't have said that if
If
he
he
were
was
actually
actually
just
going to do it, yeah.
yes,
Because obviously it would get him killed, so he
yeah.
definitely wouldn't say it
No,
because
he's
it
like
can't
he's
be
like
true.
or maybe I'll turn you in, haha.
Yeah,
We like to have fun here. He should have followed it up with "We like to have fun
you
here."
like that fucking. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. When I was watching it, I was just kind of like, I don't know if that's the best idea. Like that seems like I don't know. I don't know if we know enough about Indio to know that this would work, But I guess that's
Yeah, I mean, but listen,
hey, he takes
drastic
risks.
times
He takes
call for
risks.
yeah, he's a risk taker,
And
exactly.
he doesn't really he'll shoot his way out no matter what. He doesn't care, right?
Yeah,
Cool guy shit.
yeah.
I like it.
Cool guy
Um,
shit. This this genre of movie should just be called
cool
cool
guy
guy
shit.
shit. It
Yeah,
can span any sort of like era or setting. It doesn't like there's westerns obviously, but then there's cool guy shit, and this is a cool guy shit movie
yeah,
for sure.
A la Chronicles of Riddick.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Dick Riddick.
Dick Riddick.
I can't believe that's his name. His name is Dick Riddick. Ah, it's beautiful, really. When you think about it.
It really. I can't wait. I cannot wait for them to make another one. What a disaster. Anyway, yeah. So he's in. He's in with Indio now, and Indio basically puts him on taking a crew to Santa Cruz to distract the marshals from El Paso, right? You go to Santa Cruz, you rob the bank, they will wire the marshals in El Paso who will ride out and give us the opportunity to rob the El Paso bank because they won't have as many people. And so Clint's like, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do it. And he just kills the guys who he went out with. He's basically just like, yeah, fuck you, bye. Shoots all 4 of them dead, and it's quick and easy. And then he goes to Santa Cruz and basically forces the dude to wire. I mean, this is what I wanted, right? Like, this is the kind of stuff that I was looking for from this movie, is like me playing Fallout New Vegas kind of shit, or I like playing the Outer Worlds, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm just not gonna do what you tell me to, and I'm gonna get the rewards anyway, kind of thing. Like,
cool guy shit.
yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah, you can't tell me what to do, and I'm gonna be that. So I did like this part a lot. This is a lot of fun, right? So he gets the old man to wire to El Paso and draw the sheriffs away. And as the sheriffs are drawn away, then Indio and his gang come in and rob the bank, and they get away with it. They steal the cabinet and they ride off. But there is a hitch in the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to
Go on.
Oh, I'm going. Okay, you don't want to you don't want to
No.
take over from me here. Okay, fine.
No, I
There's
don't.
a little bit of a hitch in the plan. Which I the reason that I was asking you to take over for me is I don't exactly remember what the hitch was. I like because they do, and Clint and Lee Van Cleef end up meeting up, right? And this is where the partnership starts to fray because it didn't all work out, right? Like, I can't remember what it is that.
Are you talking? I might be getting confused. Are you talking about later when he tells him to go north? They don't go north, or no? That's after the robbery.
That's
right?
after the robbery. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
after.
Okay,
That's like
then I
really
don't
soon
remember
here because
the part you're
because
talking
Clint's
about.
going to rejoin the Indio and the gang, and that's when Lee Van Cleef shoots him in the neck, nicks him in the neck with a bullet, because he's such a good shot, right? That could have gone.
Yeah, I don't
very south.
remember.
Well, he does
right
it
now.
because like he's like, oh yeah, this way, when you go and rejoin it, you went to Santa Cruz, and the rest of them are dead, and you ride in without a scratch. India will put 2 and 2 together. So now you show him this, and he'll buy your story more easily, right? But I don't remember what the hitch is that happens. That
There
makes
was a hitch.
because Clint's mad about something because he's about to call the plan off. He basically is like the partnership. Yeah, partnership is. Oh,
Do people in the chat remember the movie we're talking about?
Sasha's right. Sasha gets it. So what went wrong is Lee Van Cleef was waiting at the front of the bank, but they blew out the wall of the back of it and just rode off with it, which they didn't expect. So
right,
yeah,
because okay, right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So okay, so earlier you had mentioned that the counting the steps of counting the seconds or the steps, whatever it is, of the guards at the bank and everything like that. It is kind of like a twist, if you will, that doesn't factor into how they rob it because they go about it a different way. But Lee Van Cleef isn't aware of it, so it catches him off guard. So that's part of the annoyance,
Yeah.
like that they had a different strategy. So I guess it's more of a surprise that way.
I wonder if that is a reference to Fast Five, or like if Fast Five is making a reference to this when they do that in the movie.
Well, if they like tied it to the back of horses and rode it through town, kind of dragging it, like causing it to like slam into buildings and stuff, that would be
awesome. That would be so sick. They should do that. They did that in Fast Five really does build where this one left off. Clearly, right?
Yeah. For even more dollars.
Yes.
Also known as Fast Five.
For 5. For 5 fast more dollars.
For $5.
Wait 1 second.
Yeah, so that's okay, right. That's the hitch. That's what goes wrong is that Lee Van Cleef was expecting them to come out the front, but they do not. They blow out the they blow out the back.
They blow out the bank's back.
Yeah, as you do, and they take away the
Uh,
safe that way. And so then when he's the only one to come back from Santa Cruz, they have to give him a wound to make it seem like, oh, I got ambushed, kind of thing. So that like all this stuff in the work,
yeah,
there's
all this is working fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of like little twists and turns. There's a lot of like clever problem solving. There's a lot of like kind of espionage sort of stuff. All that stuff's working for me. I like it.
Yeah, and so they on the fly get a new plan together, right? And the new plan is to take Indio to the north, right? They're like, tell him to go north so that he can get you, because then we can set up a good spot for an ambush so that we can take him out, right? And Clint, being upset that Lee Van Cleef has shot him in the neck, right? Goes to Indio and says, I don't know about that. I think you should go south, actually. The going north seems like a pretty good place for an ambush. And Indio is like, actually, fuck you. We're going to go east instead. We're going to...
Basically, everyone in this movie is like, you don't tell me what to do.
You don't tell me what to do.
It's just like constantly people not doing what the other person told them
Which
to
is
do all around.
Great for story structure, though, right? Like for building the drama. They're not doing what you... they'll set up something and be like, oh yeah, we're going to take him north. And then it's like, actually, oh wait, I thought he just said, oh, he's going... Yeah, because they're all independent characters with their own like goals.
Not just independent, but they're all like... stubborn.
Yeah, and it builds the drama with it like really, really well. This is so good. Like it rewards you too for paying attention to it, right? Because you're just like, wait, he just said take him north. So now we know that Clint's character is working. He's like, oh, he's not gonna do that. He's gonna, try to do his own thing.
He's
take it his own way. He's decided to call off the alliance regardless, but he's gonna pretend like he's still, on it. But then Indio doesn't like that. He can't really trust the guy. So it's great storytelling, really, really solid writing. I think that's something that people should.
Sorry, the thing says, we're gonna dig down to the center of the earth. Like they're expecting us to go north, so you know what? They'll never expect we'll
go straight to China. That would be
money will go really far in China. We just got to dig through the center of the earth to get there. They'll never expect it. Keep them on their toes.
Yeah, fucking. I love that. I love this bit, right? And I love where they end up, right? Because Ramon is taking them, or not Ramon. Indio is taking them to a different town. What is the town called, Jamie?
I've forgotten.
It's called Agua Caliente. He's literally taking them to hot water. Which is...
it's funny.
It is really...
Like, I know enough... I don't know a lot of Spanish. I know enough to know what Agua Caliente means, but literally when I watched the movie, like, it didn't even click at all.
That it's just like, right I know a place called Agua Caliente, and then it cuts to the shot of the town, and he's like, this is Agua Caliente. That's funny. That's
welcome to hot water.
Yeah, he's leading them into hot water, which is fucking hilarious, man. It's so
really
good.
Funny. It's good.
And
it just showed up on screen, so I just think it's worth pointing out in terms of cool character design stuff that Lee Van Cleef has. Like, it's almost like the equivalent of a trench coat for his horse that he can like open up and pull out like 16 different guns from. I just think that's awesome. That's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah. Yep.
He just opens it up and there's like seven guns.
He came prepared, bro. He's a bounty hunter.
Yeah, man.
He does this for a living.
As you do. It's faster than reloading.
Yeah. Kevo asks, is this when they end up in the whitewashed city? Whitewashed meaning the paint of the buildings. Yes, it is. Yes. There are very few white people here. They're all Italians. So...
there's quite a... If you like the charm of in the first movie of Italians pretending to be Mexicans, you get even more of that in this movie. It does not disappoint on that front. I quite like the obviously Italian boy that like runs up to him in the street. Like I don't know.
Senor.
It's maybe not quite as funny as the little kid from the first movie that's being dubbed by an adult, but it's still pretty funny.
Agreed.
Wow, I want to see my mama. Wow, I'm a baby. Wow,
Goo goo gaga.
Goo goo gaga. I am a
Baby.
child. Wow.
Just Dennis Hopper. Baby wants blue velvet.
Oh Lord.
Oh god. Yeah, so Indio sends Clint into town alone because the town, he basically he's like, well, we've never seen you shoot. We don't know if we can even be trusted, right? So he sends him into town alone, basically seeing if throwing him into the deep end to see if he'll sink or swim, and
And into the hot water.
throwing him into hot water out of the frying pan and into the agua caliente. And
Don't they also set up that like people in this town don't like strangers?
yeah,
And there's, I think the line is like
they don't like
people in this town,
anybody.
they don't like strangers. They don't like anybody.
Yeah.
And so that's also why they send him first.
Yeah, so they send him in there, and he there's a gang of mariachi killers, just like
First of
kind
all,
of slowly
I just want to say
over to him.
this movie has a lot of like extreme close-ups of people's faces, right? He did this in the first movie as well. It's kind of his signature thing,
Yeah.
if you will. And it's great and it's fun every time. But the three mariachis in particular, when we cut to close-ups of their faces, like their hats are so big that it like extends beyond the edge of the frame, even though it's already
Yes.
a very wide frame. So like when we're close up tight on their faces, the hat takes up the entire part of the frame. I don't know. There's just something very funny about it. I'll try to find a picture of it because it's just visually very amusing to me.
Yeah, it's great. I love that part. But so like they kind of slowly stalk towards him, and then he notices a kid trying to pick apples from a tree. So he turns, and instead of shooting the three mariachis who are stalking towards him, he shoots a bunch of apples down off the tree, and they all reconsider whether or not they should fuck with this guy because of
Yeah.
what he just did. And at the same time, Lee Van Cleef's character kind of comes out and throws his weight.
I'm
behind
also
it as
here
well.
and I'm also cool and I can shoot really good too.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
better
Yeah.
watch out.
Better watch out. Now there are two of them. This is getting out of hand.
That felt very ridiculous to me, like because the scene's already accomplishing something where he's like, oh, you don't want to mess with this guy, but then Lee Van Cleef is just here like, I'm also here and I'm even better at shooting than you, actually, if you think about it. Like, oh my god, have we not had enough of this in the movie?
Nope.
I don't know.
We sure haven't. So like he follows him into the tavern, or he's basically he's like, you mind telling me how you got here? Basically says I reasoned it out. And he's like, all right, I need a rum. I need a drink. Make it a double. And the rest of the crew comes strolling in, and the psychopathic hunchback notices Lee Van Cleef, and they get in a little fight. And he shoots him dead.
Yeah, I liked that scene.
Yeah,
That was
it
good.
was pretty good. I loved that it there was set up earlier, like why should Clint be the guy to infiltrate the crew? And Lee Van Cleef is like, well, because and this also helps, he's like, because they'd know me, that hunchback would shoot me on sight, So like
Yeah.
it sets up a little bit of that for and so now we've got the payoff there. But it turns out, oh my goodness, Lee Van Cleef has a little vial of acid in his pocket, and he's like, well, I can open that safe for you. I'm the guy who can open the safe and make sure you don't have to blow it open with dynamite and destroy half the the banknotes that are in it. So he does. He cracks it open.
And I
for
love
him.
the way that looks
It's
when they
so
do that.
yeah,
It's really cool.
it's so like there is something that like you can tell that these are like movies for the boys when you just get to like watch things functioning.
Yeah.
Like
No, I know exactly what
Yeah.
you mean. It's a very like for the boys move in a movie is to just watch people do things,
Yes,
you know?
absolutely.
Not talking, just doing things.
Yeah, like a mechanical process of how to burn open a safe. Like hell
Yeah.
yeah,
And just
that's
watching everyone standing around watching as he does it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a for the boys moment for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so true though, because I noticed that a lot. Like, it's kind of funny like watching certain directors who make movies that are for the boys. They get like really obsessed with like the mechanical processes of things. Like if you have like every David Fincher movie has at least one montage of someone using an old piece of like gear or something,
Yeah.
or whether it's in like Zodiac when they're doing the faxing, stuff like just little things like that. We just see the process. We just quietly watch people do cool things. Anyway,
Yep.
this is the framing
It's, it's
of
so
the guy
thick.
with the hat. It's just
It's,
the-
uh,
it's so fun.
Chat, you'll be
I
back in a
like it.
second, but we just have to take a moment to appreciate Sombrero Grande here.
Yeah, it's just that's the perfect way
That
to
is such
frame
a
someone
great.
in a
That is
sombrero. Look
if
at
you
that.
were doing like a D&D, like an old west D&D campaign, Sombrero Grande is such a great name character.
I like that sombrero grande.
That's fucking fantastic. uh, giant ass hats. Goddamn, dude. Great.
What an incredible frame. Like it's just chef's kiss.
Beautiful.
No, but it is so true that movies for the boys tend to have a lot more of that.
Yeah.
You know what? Speaking of like gendered differences in filmmaking techniques, the other thing I've noticed, uh, you tell me if you've noticed this too, in sort of like movies either made by women or made by men with more feminine sensibilities. That's the polite way we'll put it. Um, there tends to be a more focus on like detail shots, like really close up detail shots of like textures and like little like the
Haptic.
light coming through a window. Yeah, 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 that sort of thing too. No, but you know what I mean? The like small, like close up detail shots, whereas like movies for the boys tend to have a lot more like wide shots where you can see everything happening. You know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
I think there's a difference there. I noticed that in film school too, between the differences between like the movies that were being made by the women in our group and the men, like a difference between like close up detail shots of like intimate, textures and small little details versus the men were like wide shots where you could see everything. You could like see the whole battlefield, like that kind of attitude. And I think obviously a good movie has, a balance of both, but I just think that's an interesting difference
Oh, for
between
sure.
men
No,
and
like the
women.
mechanisms, machines and mechanics and processes and everything like that. Like
Things
yeah,
and how they
things
work
and
and
how they
people
work.
doing tasks.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I love that sort of thing. It's great.
Yeah.
I like more of that in movies where it's like if it's a movie about whatever type of profession or someone has to do something and just like taking the time to see them do it and step by step, that sort of thing, satisfying. See, Jen gets it. Very Lynn Ramsey and Sofia Coppola. Yeah, like female directors tend to be much more interested in that sort of like small, like close up detail shots of I don't know, fabrics and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's a thing. I'm telling you.
It's the haptic filmmaking, you know.
Oh, God. Oh, yeah, it is.
Oh
It's
boy.
haptic, you know? So listen, so when you watch Gladiator and you see his like hand moving through the wheat, just know that's for the ladies in
Yeah,
the audience, right?
that's feminine.
We got to give them something too, right? This is a movie for the boys, but we got to give them something to appreciate as
Gladiator
well.
is such a. Have you seen like on a quick tangent? Have you seen Russell Crowe talking about how bad the second Gladiator movie is?
No, I haven't, but
Holy
that sounds
shit, it's
fun.
so fun. It's so good. He's like we lost everything about this plot. Like there's he also talks about how like Ridley Scott at one point wanted to put sex scenes between Maximus and
Oh, in the first one,
yeah,
right?
in the first one. Yeah, he's like, "Oh yeah, Ridley Scott wanted to put sex scenes between Maximus and like the Empress." Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And Russell Crowe literally like, he was just like, "No. No, that would ruin everything."
Yeah,
Ridley.
and
That
his
would
honor
like
and his
yeah,
whole
his honor
motivation.
and his motivation and everything like that would just flush it right down the tubes. Like, that is a terrible idea.
Yeah, good on him for not
Yeah.
holding back and just, you know,
Yeah.
telling it
No, he
like it
doesn't
is,
fucking care anymore. He like I mean, granted he was in Thor Love and Thunder, so he just
Listen, I like Russell Crowe. I don't really. I'll forgive him for Thor: Love and Thunder. By the way, underappreciated role for Russell Crowe is L.A. Confidential. What a movie! Have you
Oh,
seen L.A.
yeah,
Confidential?
dude, what a good movie.
That's a great movie. And I mean, he was very, very young in that. I don't think he was very famous in America at that point. Man, what a great role for him.
Yeah, that was a good one. God, that's a good movie. What a great noir.
Yeah, yeah, we should talk about
Yeah,
that
we
movie at
should
some
we
point.
should do that. Maybe we can do like just like we're on a roll here with some of these older ones. I've been kind of digging into.
I just want more cool old movies for the boys. That's what
Yeah,
I want. That's what
give
I'm
me more of
itching
that.
for right now. So anyway,
Yeah. Anyway,
speaking
back
of
to this movie.
cool
So
old movies
Indio
for
is
the boys.
basically now that the safe is open. Indio is essentially telling everybody, "Hey, you're gonna wait in this town for
Yeah,
as
I really
long as a
like
month."
that really
Yeah,
quick. Because they start like clamoring for the money. He's like, back the fuck off. It's like, no, what we're gonna do is we're gonna wait here for a month. No one gets any of their money for a month as like a way of like keeping them in line and also securing his control over the situation, but also just sort of like thinking about their strategy for like avoiding being caught. Because the heat's on him, right? So
yeah.
I don't know. I like that about him a lot.
Oh,
I think it says a lot
Georgius
about him.
Rex just pulled out like we are going to talk about Master and Commander at some point soon,
That we,
actually,
you know what?
because Jamie has not seen that movie yet,
I know. I have not seen Master and Commander.
and that
And
movie fucking slaps. What an amazing
we
movie.
almost talked about that the last week.
Yeah,
It was
it was
it
between
was,
Master and Commander and Fistful of Dollars, and we went
yeah.
with Fistful of
So
Dollars
it's on the
instead.
list. It's coming.
Yeah, yeah.
It's coming, buddy.
And The Nice Guys is also great. Anyway, so back to this movie, back to the climax of this movie that we're setting up for. They're stuck in town for a month because Indio is a pretty smart cookie. He's a pretty smart villain. Um, Now, Lee Van Cleef and Clint are both caught in this plot. So now they have to basically think their way out of it and scheme their way out of it. Uh, they end up meeting up together um, as after all of the rest of them have supposedly fallen asleep, and they are discussing what they're gonna do. And do you remember exactly what it is that they're doing here? Because all I remember is that as they're leaving, they get caught. Are
I
they
was a
setting
little
something
fuzzy.
up, like setting up a trap or something like that, or are they just chatting?
I You know what? I was a little unclear on exactly what was happening here. I thought maybe they were just trying to steal the money and leave, but like I wasn't any more clear than that.
Now, I don't think
Because I
that
know they get caught. They
I
get
don't
caught
think
really
they're trying
quickly.
to. Yeah, they get caught really quickly as they're leaving this little rendezvous. But I don't think that they're trying to steal the money and leave because the whole point is to kill all of the people here and take them back to the reward.
So I
Right?
know they're hiding the money, like they throw it
Oh,
up in the
that's right.
tree,
Yeah, yeah.
but like and presumably, but like, what's their ultimate plan there?
I don't know. To get them to
Like
start
assuming,
being
yeah, assuming
suspicious of each other, like maybe.
maybe that's really dangerous for them, but it's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause, like, that's what's maybe a little unclear because they break into it, they take the money, they put it in those, like, saddlebags or whatever, and then they throw it into a tree, right? That's their plan to
yes,
hide it, but then they get caught immediately afterwards, but the money's still there, right? The money's still in the tree?
yeah.
Right, so, like, what were they hoping would happen if they didn't get caught? Because they didn't intend to get caught, right? That'd be crazy, right?
Yeah, no, 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 they did not. They didn't. We're not gonna go because it
Yeah, okay,
works so
because
much
if they
better when they don't intend to, right?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Okay, so yeah, they don't intend to get caught. They intend to hide the money. I guess what I'm a little unclear on. I mean, I could imagine a few things. It's not impossible, but like what exactly? Because that would cause chaos, but that could be really, really, really dangerous for them. You know.
yeah,
So okay, well let's explain what happens. Maybe we can figure out what they were trying to do
okay.
at first.
Okay,
Oh,
are you? I thought that was like your cue that you were gonna start.
no, you've been doing most of the recapping. I thought you were gonna pick it up. I can if you want to though.
Okay. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick, and then we can go through. Go through it real quick and see if they do have a plan that gets derailed here, or if they don't. I feel like they
I
probably.
don't. I think they move so quickly through this part. Like it happens very, very fast. I don't think we see them discuss a plan. It's just they're trying to take the money and hide it, and then they get caught immediately after doing that. Right? And that because
Yeah.
then we get really quickly into them being tortured and the guys cackling the whole time, like the first movie.
Yeah, and they're getting beat up, and then like Indio goes to let them go. Is like that's the big reveal, right? As he goes,
Well, the thing says the gang would blame each other and they are too cool to be in danger. They just yeah. I mean, obviously the gang would like blame each other, but you would think
oh,
like the
that's right,
new
Sasha, you're right. They planted a poster. They planted the wanted poster in the safe to do Lee Van Cleef's his signature move of reminding you that you have a bounty out for you, which is fucking cool, man. Like just basically dropping is showing you your own wanted poster and letting you
yeah.
know like I'm
No,
gonna
I
shoot
like
you.
that as a
I love
detail.
that. So
Is
yeah,
that an
no,
answer to the question?
the
Or is that
question
just another
that's what they're
fun detail?
doing in that scene, right? Like they took the money out of the safe,
Yeah.
and then they plant the poster in there, but they get caught, as they're leaving from doing that because they're gonna open the safe, and they're basically like, okay, tomorrow morning he's gonna open the safe, so we've got to make sure that the post like they've got to set the props. They're setting up the props is basically what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, am I missing something? How does that answer our question?
About whether or not they intended. What was our question again?
No, 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 not that they intended to get caught, but like why they're trying to hide the money. Like what's their ultimate goal before they get caught?
I think their goal is to just wait until the morning and then like start the shootout, basically. Like they want to start it on their own terms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So they want okay.
yeah. So
Okay, I'm
yeah,
just not that it needs to be spelled out, but I'm curious and a little fuzzy on what exactly their plan was before they got caught. Like, what they were hoping to accomplish.
yeah. And so then Indio has his scheme. Basically, they torture them, they beat them up, and then he's basically just like, well, what do you think would happen if the Texas Rangers found these two men dead with a bunch of money on them, and like guns and all that, right? Um, and basically has the plan to frame the two of them and get away scot free, right? So he goes to let them go to he goes to let them go. What is it that he goes? You remember what he's doing when he's letting them go at the end?
He's doing.
Yeah, like he's got a plan for why he's doing that, right? Like why he decides to let them out and ride away.
Well, he's gonna let them out and ride away, and then he's going to send the other guys after him. So ultimately, him and only like the one henchman that he really trusts
Get
are
away with all
going
the
to
money, right? Okay,
get away with all the
yes,
money.
which
That's the
is
plan.
yeah, which is like again, I like this is it's all very complex, right? But it's double crossing each other on a bunch of different levels,
Yeah. So
and I
I
like
like
it.
Indio's plan.
Yeah,
Indio's plan is interesting to me, and I like that. What Georges Rex makes a good point about the whole like sowing chaos by hiding the money thing is that like you would think that would turn the distrust directly onto them.
yeah, you would think that just
But
because.
like but maybe they're looking to like start the chaos and the shooting and then ultimately like they'll know where the money is. So like yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure about what they were going for. There are plausible answers to that, but I'm not sure what they are because because there are so many other plans that need to form as a result. That we'll
Yeah.
have to spend more time explaining. But yeah, so his plan is to like, okay, I'm gonna let them go. Like we'll torture them for a bit, and then we're gonna let them go, and we're going to convince the rest of our guys that they stole the money and left. So they go chase them down, and hopefully they just all kill each other or something. And meanwhile, you and me, we're going to take the money ourselves, and we're gonna get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, and then they like
And
in order to help them escape, like the one henchman steals a knife from one of the guys who's sleeping, kills another one of the henchmen, and then they frame Indio's henchman. They frame the guy whose knife they took for killing. Yeah, it's a little complicated. There's a few a good
it
amount of
works though.
moving parts. It does work. No, it does. It does. It all holds up to scrutiny. I was very happy with that when I was watching it because I was like, feels like we're about to get a little too big for our britches for a second here, but it does not. It sticks the landing very well.
Yeah.
It is just
But he has to.
kind of
Indio
difficult to
has to have a
explain after
scene
the
where
fact.
he like play acts like he killed a guy who betrayed him,
Yes.
even though he just killed him in cold blood, essentially. Which is an interesting little moment for him, right? Seeing him like do that little bit of acting, and he has to be like, "Well, what are you guys waiting for? Go after them!"
Yeah.
You know, is really interesting. I like that scene a lot.
Yeah,
Good in
I
that
think it's
scene.
great. It is really like it keeps you guessing, but
Yeah,
it is really it works. And
this one has a more intricate plot full
yeah,
of
that
twists
is
and turns
very
and
true.
wrinkles, and like, okay, there's a setback. How are we gonna adjust? Blah
And
blah
the
blah. There's a lot
lighting
more
in
of
this
that.
scene is so fucking good.
Oh, the
Like
nighttime
yeah, the
scene. Yeah, with
nighttime
like the
scene, yeah.
blue moonlight and the fires. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
It's really good. So then
A really good looking movie.
yeah,
Really good.
I just when then we cut back to them waiting in Agua Caliente, loading up for the shootout that is to come, right? And they get then well the other henchmen have kind of figured it out, right? They've kind of figured out what Indio's, or at least one of the other henchmen has figured out what Indio's up to. So he comes
Yeah,
back in.
it's just one of them, I
Yeah,
think, if memory serves.
yeah, he comes back in to give him some shit for what he's done, and they try to be, no, I'm going to be the guy with the money. But then he opens the safe and he finds his wanted poster. Indio opens the safe, finds his wanted poster, and none of the money. So that's obviously not good for either of them, right?
Mm.
Uh, it, then they're all fanning out across the a town. I love the little back and forth scene between Clint and Lee Van Cleef as they get ready to mobilize and go do the fight that they need to do.
Right, because instead of actually running away, they sort of stayed, which
Yeah,
is another interesting little wrinkle.
yeah, because their goal essentially is just kill these guys, right, and get the money.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're not going
Because then
anywhere.
they get the bounty too, because it's dead or alive.
Yeah,
And they
and
talk about it
that
at
was the
one
whole
point. I don't
the whole
remember.
thing is they're gonna split because Indio's worth 10,000, but the rest of the crew is worth about 10,000,
Yeah,
roughly, maybe
altogether.
more.
Yeah.
But so then we get we get the big shootout, and I love how many times there's a couple of moments where they pop out from around a corner at each other, and they almost shoot each other because they don't they don't know where everybody is. But it's a little bit like when you're playing laser tag with your boys, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Indio goes to send his henchmen out, to get them, but he, it's like I've got a plan. They'll be back here eventually. Then Indio and his other henchmen they have their own little showdown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is
This is the section where they just kill everyone else.
yeah,
You're right. Everyone but Indio, essentially.
yeah. So
Gets whittled down.
yeah, basically it whittled down. There's so many great scenes, great shots, and just snap zooms and everything going through it. But it's the big shootout scene where the town is basically under fire. which it's great. It goes on for quite some time, so we'll skip ahead to, basically the end. But like, is there anything of
I will say,
noteworthy that
like,
you want to?
well, just like in terms of my general criticisms of the movie, it's like because I'm not like hyper invested in their success, like I'm mildly invested in their success. I sort of want them to catch him, but like not nearly to the extent I was in the first movie. There's a lot of stuff towards the back half of this that like gets a little tedious to me. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I
Like
see what you're
some of
saying. Yeah.
some of the shootouts and stuff are a little like, yeah, okay, yep, yep. Yeah, I'm just sort of like waiting for the next story beat to happen. Some of the stuff towards the end. Partly that's just because it's longer. I think it's like a full 30 minutes longer.
It's pretty long. Yeah. I
Yeah, it's
mean,
longer. It's in not in a way that I feel like we actually got that much more story. We have more plot than the first movie by a little,
yeah. I
Like
mean, I like
there's
the bit
more.
in the barber shop where he sets his poncho and his hat up on a hat stand as if it's him standing in a corner. So they break in and they shoot at it, but then he's in the swivel chair, so he turns around and just shoots them. Like, I like
Yeah.
seeing that stuff, right? And then I like that we cut back and forth to Indio just sitting around, like smashing a bug and drinking liquor and then like playing with his pocket watch and everything while it's all going on because he's
Yep.
just
Okay. Part of my problem there, because I think that is interesting, but he's like listening to the pocket watch for a while. Like we have a full scene where we keep cutting back and forth between where he's still doing the pocket watch music thing, and then we're gonna have the big shootout where the pocket watch music plays again twice, and then this has already happened like 3 or 4 times in the movie. Like it gets kind of grating to me at a certain point.
I
It
yeah, I can see that.
yeah, it's just it feels like we could have pared some things down a little bit, and if I had a bit more of a sort of like emotional reason, like the heart of if there was a bit more of heart to the story, like if I understood Lee Van Cleef's motivation for more of the movie, I might be more invested in this section, you know. But as is, it's like it doesn't really hook me in the same way. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, no, I think on the second watch it makes this a lot stronger, like because you do understand the motivation. So like this feels a lot more fun the second time around when you're not just kind of like waiting for the next bit of story to take place. So yeah, I mean this is where we get the big like he
Wait,
does.
someone said Lee Van Cleef's motives are more interesting in this movie than the first Dollars movie. You're out of your goddamn mind. No fucking way. We don't do anything with his. He doesn't have interesting motives until the very, very end. But it just feels tacked on because for most of this movie, he's just a bounty hunter who wants to collect a bounty. That's his motivation. That's not. I don't think that's more interesting, really, than the first movie where a man comes into town and he like sort of sees this evil thing happening. He decides he can't abide it, so he's going to like risk life and limb just for the sake of the good itself because he because he just can't abide it. I don't know. I just find that way more interesting, especially when you get the bit where like he saves the woman and then she asks him why, and you can tell that like something in his past, his mother, a sister, or something like that, something horrible like that happened to her, and there was no one around, so he feels like he has to be the person to do it. That's so much more interesting in this movie. If this movie explored in a much more meaningful way the fact that his sister was killed by Indio, I'd be happy to say that they were comparable. But as is, it's just like bet you didn't know they were going to be brother and sister. We don't do anything with it. Doesn't really factor into the story as we've already talked about. I don't know. I don't think they're comparable at all.
Yeah, I mean, I so I can see
It's not
that
his
like
motivation. What are you talking about?
yeah, I'm a little confused, Emperor. I think if you wouldn't mind just like clarifying a little bit more about what some of that what's that means, but I so especially on the second time going through it, I did find the like I understand where you're coming from that Lee Van Cleef's character's motivations are more personal, right? He has a direct stake in the a direct stake in taking down the villain, as compared to in the first one where it's more just that he is the wandering good guy, who is there to serve out justice because he's there, right? He has a little bit of backstory added in the line, why are you helping us? Well, because, once I knew someone like you and there was no one around to help, so that's why I'm here, right? There is a little bit of that, but for the most part, it's much simpler and much less personal, right? Like we don't have a full-on tie-in to, like, he doesn't say, "Oh, it was my mother, and when I was a kid, my mother was in trouble and there was nobody around to help, so nobody, all this happened. So now I'm a good guy who runs around saving, women who are stuck in bad situations and getting like doing the right thing because of all that, right? I understand that it's not as personal as in this one. I don't
It's not
know that
really
I
all that.
think
It
that
doesn't
makes it
manifest in
better.
this movie.
Yeah, and I
No,
also
like
I
it,
don't know. I
okay.
wouldn't say that I think that makes it better or stronger. I think that it's definitely it definitely it still works, right? I don't think it's not working, but I
At
don't.
first, okay,
Yeah,
I have to jump in,
go ahead.
right? So you say it's pretty clear from the beginning that Van Cleef has some personal stake in this. No, it's not especially clear from the beginning. It's revealed at the end, and then the most you can say about the first 90% of the movie in terms of revealing his personal stake is that when he looks at the poster, we do a couple like really fun cutting back and forth things, and there's like maybe a line or two that makes you think, oh, maybe he knows Indio.
Maybe he knows
We
India.
don't
There's
re-
some musical
we don't
cue.
manifest. We reveal it at the end, but it is not manifested its dramatic potential in the story at all. And so on paper, it's like, oh, certainly this is more emotional. He's got more stakes in the movie because that's his sister. And it's like, where is that in the story itself? It's barely there.
Yeah, it shows up
You
at the
know,
end.
there is a more heartfelt, emotional, personal, like core, like the core of the character is invested in the story in the first movie, even though he doesn't know these people, right? Like I don't know. I just don't think they're comparable at all. I don't feel like we've manifested the potential of that reveal in the slightest in this movie.
Yeah,
We
and
haven't done it.
I don't know that I would say that the revenge angle makes it a so what the thing that we liked so much about Fistful of Dollars, right, is th- the overall like fairy tale like or myth like, legend like aspect of the story. It's very Saint, like we said during that stream, it's very Saint George and the Dragon. He stumbles upon this town that's been ruined by evil, and he uproots the evil because he just can't. Like he is the hero,
Because the
right?
right thing to
It's
do.
because it's the right
Yeah.
thing to do. This one is much more, it's a much more down to earth sort of revenge story. The mythological aspect that we liked so much about the first one is not at play in this as much. It's very much more Lee Van Cleef's character is a bounty hunter who when the guy who raped his, like, I mean, really what it is like the guy who raped his sister and got her killed, right? Gets out of prison, and so he embarks on a revenge quest. And
Yeah, but
it's
on
not
paper,
like on
the
paper,
actual
right? Like on
I
paper. And
because what
like
actually
in a
happens,
very minimal sense, they do set
yes.
like very minimal sense they set it up, right? So like they keep it bare bones and slim, which can be very strong if yeah, if it's it can be very strong. I don't know that it is to his motivations throughout the movie. I would say
Yeah.
I don't
I
think it
almost
is.
feel like it's incorrect to even describe the story of this movie that way, because the story of this movie is that he's a bounty hunter going after a bounty. And then there's a little tacked on thing at the end. You know what I mean? Because I feel like if someone said like, oh, what's, for a few dollars more about, and I'm describing it from Lee Van Cleef's perspective, and I describe it just like you did, where like the guy who raped and, got his sister killed is like now he's out of prison or whatever, and now he has to go and act revenge. It's like that that really isn't the story here.
Yeah, and so
You
like
know,
Georgius is pointing out, like this is it. Mortimer sees a bounty poster. He goes after the bounty. It's really not clear that he has any more investment in it than a business
yes,
interest until the end, and that's like
you would expect it to affect his behavior more, and you would expect the writer to
you
realize
would
that
expect
there's
a little, like,
actually
yeah, to give it a little more to it than just sort of hinting maybe that there might be more to it, but he doesn't. It's really subtle hints, like really really subtle. This being like so Emperor, what you're saying there, like Van Cleef is more interesting in his pursuit of the personal revenge. I don't agree. I don't agree that he's more
no, I don't
interesting.
agree at all.
That would be where we're having, like, I don't think it's more interesting. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it's as good as the first one.
I think it has the potential to be
Yeah,
interesting.
I think it's got all the pieces that it needs. It's just not quite executing on them well enough for either of us to resonate with it the way we did with the first one, where it's kind of and like people were saying, this is that the first one's an adaptation, basically, shot like block for block of Yojimbo, right?
Yeah.
But it the core of that story is working very well. This one just has it like there's one or two pieces that we wish it had that would have put it over the top. Otherwise, it's just kind of there, right? It's
Yeah.
not really doing the full on it's
Let's
not
think about
really
it this
doing it,
way,
right?
right? In terms of like how interesting Lee Van Cleef's motivations are. If you lose the reveal at the end, where it's made explicit that that was his sister or his daughter, depending on, or mother, depending on, what dub you're listening to. But okay, if you lose that little bit, does it change anything about the movie? And the answer is no,
Doesn't
because
change
it
how he
doesn't
yeah, it doesn't really change how he
doesn't change
pursues the
how he
goal.
acts at
Yeah,
all. It
earlier.
ought to. It really ought to. It should be the kind of thing where if you didn't reveal that at the end, you might be like wondering why they did so many like shots showing him. You know what I mean? It should affect his behavior. And so I struggle to give the movie credit for making his motivations interesting when we don't see those motivations being interesting. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
yeah, I agree with that. And Topaz Dude is also like, it comes down to preference on, what it feels like. Um, yeah, it becomes
Here's where I'm going to be a little spicy and say that I don't actually think this is if the version of the movie where it's like actually throughout the story it's revealed earlier, or maybe there are a lot more signs indicating that like, oh, maybe he actually has a much stronger, more visceral emotional investment in killing what's his name, Indio,
Indio.
than he shows in this movie. In the version of the movie where he actually has that really strong motivation as a result of revenge, and we see it manifest in the story, uh, that comparing that to the first movie feels more like a matter of personal taste and preference for me, because they're both executed well, and it's which one do you find more interesting? The guy who's doing the right thing to help a stranger, even though he isn't personally connected to them, or the person who's doing something out of revenge? But one in this case is actually well executed, and the other one is like barely executed at all. So it doesn't feel like, well, both are equally as strong, just depends on what you like. It's like, no, one's not really there in
Yeah,
the
this one,
story, unfortunately.
this one is not really. It's just not as strong of a tie, right? It doesn't play into the personal revenge story as well as it could. Like we said, it's very subtle. You're noticing really interesting little subtle details, and that's great. But if that big reveal at the end was taken out, you might be kind of confused about, like, oh, that we really, because, but like Jamie was saying earlier, right, that opening scene where we watch his reaction to the wanted poster, you could easily, especially given the way the film is stylistically, you could easily write that off as, oh, we're having fun, we're having fun with it,
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
works just as well. Is the thing,
yeah.
like, yeah, it does help when you know that is a personal connection, but it's not
It should affect
necessary, and
so
it
much
should
more of his
be,
behavior.
like it
You
really
know,
should. Yeah.
there should be, I don't know, you should see something in him the way he interacts with Indio, right?
Yeah, I
The
think
way
you
he
should. I
talks
think
about
I
him.
think that there should be more than like a musical cue and a couple of little hints dropped before we get there. Because he does, Georgius pointed out like that was a really good point. Like he does it does just seem like he's doing this out of a business interest
Yeah.
throughout most of the movie. His motivation, his actions, the way he takes them, they don't seem tied to revenge. And it's only once you get to the ending point where it reveals it. It's like, oh, okay, like that casts
That's
it in a new
something.
light. That casts it in a new
That's
light,
an
and
idea. Yeah.
it's a good idea. And on a rewatch, it makes it seem like, oh, okay, like you can read more into some of the other stuff, but it's not there as explicitly as I think. Like it's just too subtle for me. It just needs
Yeah.
more. It needs more than it has. It's still good. The movie overall is still good, but like that particular emotional core, that's not executed on it's not executed on as well as the emotional core of the first one,
No,
and that's
yeah.
why that one is working. That's why I prefer that one. That's
Yeah. Yeah, because I think fundamentally, like so much of like the experience of watching the movie, but especially in the first watch, is how it really hangs on how invested you are in just seeing two bounty hunters try to catch a bounty.
yeah,
To like attributing much more to it than that is I don't know, because like that is most of it's like if that's working for you and if that's all you need to be really hooked and gripped by what's happening here, then that's cool, good for you,
yeah.
like more fun for you. I just yeah, I yearn for the movie that actually used that reveal in a more meaningful way, because that sounds great. I really want this to be more of a revenge story than it is. That sounds hip.
Yeah.
It sounds really cool, actually. I would be, it would make watching all these scenes of Lee Van Cleef way more compelling because you like really want it for him, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, by the end, right, we kind of get a similar, and like we kind of get a similar play out. Lee Van Cleef's character gets the similar play out to Clint from the first one, where he basically just says, "Nah, I don't need any of the money," right? And that works, right? That I
Yeah,
like that,
yeah. Once we have the reveal that all that
yeah,
everything about his behavior works and makes sense for me.
yeah,
Like at following that point, yeah. Where it's like ultimately it wasn't about the money for me, because like there's just such an opportunity to play even more with like the competing for the money thing ultimately, because he has to keep up. I like the idea that he has to keep up the ruse to Clint Eastwood that he's just a bounty hunter and that he's not doing it for revenge, because revealing that would compromise maybe his goal, and what he's trying to do. And then ultimately it can be like, nah, it's all the money's yours. I just needed to kill this guy.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's because I like that. That's good.
There's a few people who've mentioned Once Upon a Time in the West too, and like wondering how we would feel about that. That might be an interesting one to check out at some point. I've never seen
I
that
still
one
have
either.
not seen that one, so
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's another Sergio Leone one too, right? So
Okay.
like, yeah, that'd be kind of interesting to check out. That's Charles Bronson.
Charles Bronson.
He had a mustache.
Henry Fonda. Okay.
That sounds good, man. Yeah, that sounds. I think that was made after
I'm
these
always
three,
down.
but yeah,
Yeah, 68. Not long after these. Is that the one that's like one of the original like Cinerama, not Cinerama ones, but like isn't it doesn't it have like I have images in my head of like Once Upon the Time in the West like being projected across this like massive curved screen with like three different projectors. Is that movie? I don't know. Topaz dude, if anyone in the chat will understand what I'm talking about, it'll be you. If I'm thinking
yeah.
of the right movie, let me know. Anyway,
Well, yeah, that'd be great. But yeah, so I mean, he rides off into the sunset, and Clint, piles up the bodies on the cart and starts riding into town. And
very minor nitpick, the way he stacks the bodies
they
in
would
the cart
absolutely
and then
fall.
they
Yeah,
would fall
they would
off.
fall
Come
off
on, man.
immediately.
Just like close the gate or something. Come on. It's like one of the last shots in the movie. I'm like, those are gonna fall out. For sure those are gonna fall
You're
out.
gonna be picking those things up off the sidewalk. Like,
It's not gonna look good for you. If someone comes across you and you're yeah, come on. Just close. Doesn't that thing have like a trailer, gate to it or something?
Yeah,
Just
it's
push him
hanging.
a
It's
little further
hanging out
back.
like on the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah.
Yeah, it's hanging open on the bottom. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
that just
and
feels like that was a very quick fix could have solved that for me.
yeah, but it is
Those are
funny.
gonna
Like
fall
he's
out for
riding
sure.
off with all the all the money in his cart and everything like that. Again,
Wait,
viewing
wait,
it.
wait.
Okay.
There's a fun gag I think we stepped over.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Before he rides off, right? He's like counting all the bodies and he's like adding them up by 5,000 or however many they're worth each, and he's or 3,000, I think, whatever it is. And he's like, 24, hmm, or like 22 or whatever it is. And then there's another guy who like comes out from around the wall and he's gonna shoot him. He turns around and shoots him really quick. He's like 27, perfect.
Yeah.
Like that's a fun little gag where he's like, this isn't everybody. Like that's how he's tipped off to a guy because we see the setup of him like. The other henchman like coming around like, oh no, is he gonna kill Clint Eastwood? And the way Clint Eastwood deduces that he's about to get shot is like, wait a minute, that's not the total amount of money. There's one left, and he whips around doing cool guy shit. Yeah,
Yep.
fun.
Yeah. And boy, I mean, that's the movie. He rides off with all the bodies and everything like that. And yeah, again, just the one little thing that I felt and it was mostly just because, especially on the first time through, I was like, oh, I want to see my boy from the first movie. I want to see more of that, right? Him just sort of like piling up bodies and having actually done it all for the money was like, okay. Like, yeah, I get it. He's a bounty hunter now. Yeah, okay. I still prefer the first one, man. I prefer him being the hero, and that's just
Yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
yeah,
I
as
mean,
a
it's
different
like
character, as like a different character who wears the same costume and everything, you know what? Fine. Like I said, on a second watch, I appreciated this one a lot more. I'm still gonna
yeah.
stick with Fistful as my favorite of the three right now, but you know what? Pretty good
Also, it
movie.
is kind of funny. Like, I know it was probably just a practical thing in terms of when during the day they shot those sequences, but it is really funny that when Lee Van Cleef leaves, he's going off into the sunset, and then we cut back to Clint Eastwood, and it's no longer sunset, and he rides off in the other direction, and like it's just a time of day thing, I'm sure, but it is kind of funny. You could read into that like Lee Van Cleef gets to ride off as the hero into the sunset, and then it cuts
Yep.
back to Clint Eastwood, and it's no longer sunset. He's just going off. It's kind of I don't know. It's a symbolism happens kind of moment.
Thoughts on the final duel between Colonel and Indio?
Oh yeah, we kind of breezed through that,
We
didn't
did.
we?
We did.
Well, uh, I didn't find it tremendously satisfying, but it was all right.
Yeah, I
It
mean it's
worked.
good. I think like, again, with like one of the biggest, our big sticking point is going to be that if it was established that there was a motive beyond just money earlier in the movie, that
I'd
shootout would
find it
hit
more
a lot
meaningful.
harder. Yeah, a lot more
Yeah, man, it
meaningfully.
certainly would.
As it is, it's fine, and it works, and it is.
Yeah,
But like
but yeah, like on a
I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, I kind of figured there was something, but
yeah, on a
yeah.
first watch, because unless I'm crazy and I'm just having like a brain fart here, like we don't set up Lee Van Cleef's second watch at all before that, do we?
I don't remember him
I don't
like
remember him having it.
except
Maybe someone in the
maybe.
chat will remember it was set up, but I definitely had the experience of
You know where it would
not
have been a
having it set
really
up.
good point to set that up actually is when they're getting the shit beat out of them. Like if he's frisking their pocket, like taking all their stuff out of their pockets and everything, and if I mean that would have been a good place to set it up, right?
Yeah,
Like at the second act low point, and now all of a sudden like you can really reveal, but like Indio recognizes the pocket watch, realizes like yeah, I don't know, that could have it would change how things like fundamentally it would have to change how things play out for the rest of the act, but I think that's like that would work. You could do it there.
that's one way of doing it for sure. Yeah, setting that up ahead of time that way, because when he pulls out the second watch, I'm like, oh, I guess you just have that. All right. I feel like that, because it's a very specific watch that is also a music box, essentially. It's a very like unique thing. When he just has the second one, he's like, "Ah, don't worry, I bought him more time." And then like what does buying him more time really do? you know, because it's just
I
a
mean,
quick draw.
yeah,
I mean, it kind of
it
like ices
rattles
him a little
Indio.
bit.
Yeah, it ices
Yeah, it
Indio. I guess is like
sure.
you ice the kicker. Sure, you know
Yeah,
what? I can
exactly.
buy that. Yeah, that's fine.
That's something.
It's
That's something. Also, who says it?
it's a level of subtlety that I wish was, like psychological subtlety that I wish was more active in movies like this. So I'm okay with that. I wish that having your head in the game played more of a role more often in things like that.
Yeah, Wiltel, if I'm pronouncing that right, says Clint saves Lee though, and it's like there's definitely a version of this where like him saving him or helping him in the end is like actually really satisfying in a way that it's like he still gets to have his revenge, but also the fact that he made this alliance with this guy who maybe seemed like a competitor or someone who's going to get in the way ultimately benefits him, and helps him win the day. There's a way that works. In this, as is, it's just a little like, oh, okay. I don't know. It doesn't do much for me. It's just like ultimately this is just going to be a quick draw thing, and then when it happens, it's like, yeah, I kind of figured he would shoot faster. You know what I mean? Like it didn't.
Yeah. Well, and like I think there was something that I did notice this right at the beginning when he pulls out the watch and says, "Hey, when you hear the music stop, then you can shoot to the guy, at the beginning of the movie." Right? I did sort of say to myself, I was like, "Well, yeah, but he listens to that all the time. He knows when
Yeah,
the
he
like he
knows
knows, right?"
exactly.
So that, yeah, okay, so he's the villain. He's cheating a little bit. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So Topaz brings out the argument is that Indio knows exactly when the music ends on his. It's exactly how his will last. Yeah, I can see that sort. Like again, it's a. I can see that for the most part, but also it is kind of like you are kind of just like, yeah. Well, I mean, Mortimer's gonna shoot faster. Like he's better shot.
Yeah, because we
We've
established that so
yeah.
thoroughly. Okay, so here's the other thing, right? Like, what is? Yeah, I mean, it catches him off guard and it rattles
I
him
like
that
the
he brings
icing.
in another
Like I think
watch.
that's
That's
it's
something.
and
Yeah,
if
not
the
bad.
watch had been more firmly set up earlier in some
I
way, I
think
think
that
it
would
would
hit
hit a
harder.
lot harder. Yeah.
Yeah, and
It's
certainly
not
because
bad. It's just not
yeah,
quite sticking it. All the
and then the
elements are there. We just need one or two.
sure. Yeah, a couple tweaks, honestly. Because the other thing is like, okay, the ultimate conflict is between these two guys, and it comes down to who's going to shoot faster, which is just a matter of who the movie will decide is faster. So, like, what you really need to find it compelling is the sort of emotional connection or like the emotional investment in wanting him to succeed, right? Because it's it's because that's there's not a whole lot to it otherwise. You know what I mean? It's just a who's faster in a quick draw competition.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least in the first movie, when it comes down to like a quick draw competition, like Clint Eastwood has already bested Ramon and gives him the opportunity anyway, just to prove that he's that good. That adds a little something. That adds a little flavor. It gives him, and also there's plenty of setup about like who's like which is faster, which weapon, right? And there's also like what we talked about with that movie. It's because it's such a good versus evil tale. The other thing that does, that little like thing where he says, you know what, I'm going to give you the opportunity to beat me in a fair fight, because one of the things that he's proving or seeking to prove, that the movie is proving, is that like the ultimate thesis is that like good defeats evil in a fair fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of, so there's layers to it in a way, and because you're invested in him killing the evil guy because it is the good thing to do, and like he can't abide this guy just going around terrorizing people and ruining lives and all that stuff, and he has it coming. In this, but because most of his motivation, because the reveal hasn't happened yet, is the motivation is just, oh, he just wants the bounty. Ultimately it just comes down to, okay, who's faster? And it's like, well, we've seen Mortimer be faster for most of the movie, so it's probably going to be him. And then like he comes in with the second watch and you go, oh, I guess he just has a second watch. Okay, that's interesting. That kind of rattles him, and then oh, he's faster. Oh, look, he did it. Good, yay. And then they drop the reveal on you, and you go, oh, that was interesting. I would have liked to known that sooner.
It's kind of like at the end of Kraven the Hunter. You know who's going to win, but you're so invested that you don't know how it's going to play out.
Yeah, and that sort of sums up, I think, what my general take on this movie is that it's just it's a step
as good
down.
as Kraven the Hunter.
It's as good.
That might be fighting
Kraven the
words.
Hunter. Yeah, no, it's just not quite as good for me along basically every dimension, but it's still good. It all still works. You know, I like it.
Yeah,
but like,
it's all working.
Me,
I just don't like it as much. Like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not
along every
well.
aspect, basically.
Yeah. Yep, that was my read on it too. The second time watching it, I enjoyed it much more, but still not as much.
What about the second time watching it? Did this final showdown become a whole lot more compelling for you, or was it about?
It definitely like it. Once you know everything that's coming, you're like it does build up. It did. Yes.
So, maybe this is the kind of movie I would enjoy more on a second watch, but partly it's just I'm comparing it to a movie that I really, really love now.
Yeah, so, I like honestly, I feel like A Fistful of Dollars just kind of shot its way up my list of personal bests, and so like this one, this one is just like it's a little bit underdone comparatively in the story department, and that just like as much as
I Madam Web, as Emperor Goodwin points out.
Exactly.
It's Kraven the Hunter level, but it's no Madam Web.
I mean, again, still miles better than almost any be getting made nowadays, and definitely worth checking out. I understand why it hits.
Jay Jameson says underseasoned doesn't make it bad. You just want more. Yeah, I mean that is part of my problem. Like everything that I do like about it, I want more of that.
Yeah. Very excited to revisit The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch that as well. Yeah. See where that budget went. I know because I do remember some pretty like epic Civil War battles, and I remember being impressed by the scope of that for sure.
Wasserman, that is fair, right? Like once you realize these are different characters, it does help. That on the second watch, that definitely did help for me.
And not only that, Hugh did try to pry me because he watched it the first time and then messaged me like, just so you know, you should not expect them to be the same guy. I know everything about the movie will be telling you that it
is the same guy. Everything about the movie, everything about the title, everything about the costumes, it's all going to tell you that it's the same guy. It's not the same guy. He's not this. He is a different guy.
And so I am glad you told me that. That definitely helped separate it for me. I think I would have enjoyed it even less if I was, but mostly it's just a matter of like, I think the only reason I have problems with this movie is because the other one is so good, not because this one's especially bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything else to say about this movie. I feel like we're almost at the point where we're saying the same thing over and over again. So
yeah. So that's it. Well, next week we will be concluding the Dollars tetrad, I guess, trilogy, whatever you want to call it.
Isn't
Tetrad 4?
4?
Yeah, maybe. I'm a writer, James. I don't know.
But these are words, Hugh.
Shut up. We'll be talking about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly next week. That'll be next week. It'll be fun. On Sunday.
Probably
live
around
on the
this
internet,
time.
talking about movies.
Yeah.
Time.
Another super chat. Wow. Can you switch it up next with Jungle Book or Exit 8? No.
No, we're gonna do The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly first, and then the Jungle Book, and that's you're just gonna have to deal with
it. Sorry, we gotta conclude this arc. We gotta finish it. We gotta tie it off in a neat little bow.
Like a Chinese gangster. Exactly. That is what.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Super chats. Don't worry, we will get on to other things, Matthew Leach, but you will just have to wait. You'll just have to be a patient boy. Sorry you don't like cool guys doing cool things in the West.
In the West on the move.
But
But we
it's
do.
not my fault you're gay. All right? It's not my fault.
Oh,
Don't
hey,
blame me.
I don't know what. Do you know what Exit 8 is? Thank you very much, Awesome, for that. I do not know what Exit 8 is, but Awesome, would be very curious about our opinion. Exit 8.
By the way, I'm just kidding, Matthew Leach. Exit 8 is a new horror film. I think it's Japanese question mark. It's one of those Asian countries. It's based on a video game. Um, that's all I know about it.
Oh,
I know it's
interesting.
people wandering through like subway passageways and hallways.
Oh, it's this
That
game.
one.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. I've seen a guy doing a speed run of this.
That's all. That's literally all I've ever seen is like someone like rounding corners and seeing like anomalies or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'm like
Wow.
trying to speed. Like I don't know how they made that into a whole feature film. I'll be
Bro,
curious
it's
to see
getting
how they
great
did that.
reviews.
Is it really?
Surprisingly. Yeah, like 92% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes. And I mean, like, not that either of these really matter for like what, right?
Oh, but it's interesting, right?
Yeah, 92% from critics and 86% from regular old people.
Or old people. Interesting. Yeah, it's like a yeah. Jay Jameson says it's kind of like a liminal space type thing. I'd be curious how a game that takes place seemingly entirely in a series of hallways will translate into a feature film. You know, there's a way to make it work, I assume, but it's a challenge for sure. So I'm curious about that one
Yeah,
more than most new horror movies, just because it seems unusual. Is it Japanese? Was I
it is
right about that?
Japanese. Yes. I have
Oh,
not
it's a
seen it.
neon movie. That makes sense. Neon,
Oh, yeah, of course. I have not
the
seen any
distributor.
of this director Genki Kawamura's other movies. Um oh no, I have. I've seen his anime movie Your Name. My girlfriend, that one. That was pretty good. Good animated. But yeah, okay, interesting.
We should probably check it out before it leaves the theater because I imagine
It
it won't
yeah,
be
I
in there.
mean, I wonder if I live in a much more accessible part of town now. Nope. I do not have it.
It isn't.
It
All
is
right.
not
Well,
in my theaters.
we'll figure it out. By the
Yeah.
time we get around to it, maybe it'll be on streaming, or maybe there's other ways of seeing it. We'll find out.
Yeah, we'll
But
see.
yeah, thank you for joining us. Next time, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we will move on to other things. Matthew Leach, do not
Yes.
worry, do not fret.
Yeah.
We won't only do westerns forever, but
No.
there will be a lot of westerns, so get used to it.
Quite a few. We might even I did just go see a re-release of Jackie Chan's Police Story in the theater, and oh boy, that was awesome. I cannot recommend that movie enough. It's so much fun. Jackie Chan in his prime was so good, and we've really lost something with the lack of kung fu movies that we do. The lack of westerns and kung fu movies that we do nowadays is actually kind of criminal. We need more of that.
Yeah,
Bring that back.
I'm for it. I'd like to see Police Story. Topaz Dude is saying I should check out a musical called Gold Diggers of 1933. All right, say no more.
If you had watched it, stupid. In Japan, it's no show.